Testing. Audio. Testing. Oh man, something just popped in. Hello, testing. Testing the audio. Okay, something seems to be happening. I silenced it over there. Can you guys hear me? So I'm checking the chats right now to see if it comes in. Somebody said it worked. I heard it pop in as well. People are saying sound. Okay, wait. The important thing here is what did I just do to fix it? I went to audio and I clicked. No, I was about to do that and then it popped in before I got a chance. So I went into my microphone and I clicked the refresh button and then it just instantly turned on. So it seems like everything was correctly set up. It just when I unplugged it and plugged it in, it wanted to get refreshed. So I'm going to check the audio one more time. Okay, it is on and seems to be working. And given the current situation, I do not need headphones on here, so we can take those off. Hi, everybody. It's Chris Schmidt. Welcome. Thank you guys for hanging out. This is a very special private live stream just for this Slack channel. We have a bunch of different purposes in this. Let me go and clean some of these things up. Go to the site. Yeah, that's good. No audio. I can pause that. I don't need to be using more bandwidth than we need to be. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff to cover and talk about here and catch people up. So first of all, there's a lot of systems where I don't know how many people we have viewing. I don't have those stats. But something that's cool is, and I'll show you guys here. I'm gonna pull it. Actually, I've got all these cool setups. We're using a brand new restreaming or a brand new streaming software. So here is this one camera setup. You can see I got my nice camera set up, and we got this backdrop. I'm gonna get another light so that can light up really bright. And then we've got our sharing the desktop view with me in the corner, and hopefully the audio is still working. So when this changed over, let me know if the audio was still working there. And okay, somebody's saying the audio is not synced. Different people. Okay, so first of all, because you guys can hear and see me, let me throw a couple things out there. First of all, I am monitoring the stuff so I can tell if it was working or not, and I'm seeing your guys' chat. So no worries about me seeing it or not seeing it. I should be seeing it. And Yada Glow is going to be contacting me through my phone if something goes wrong and I'm not realizing. So that part is covered. Now, we have a bunch of tech stuff that we're supposed to be trying to figure out. And this is the first time I'm testing with people watching. So there is a couple things we need to do. First of all, the audio seems to be working, but some people are saying it's not synced. Now, I want to cover a couple little details here because first of all, we're live streaming as a test to Twitch, to YouTube, to Facebook, and to Periscope all simultaneously. So hopefully that's working. Let's pop back onto the screen. So hopefully that's working, but the different platforms might have different syncing issues. So those are separate things we need to do, and that's why we're here testing. Next week will be the for real stream where it's kind of more big and public and we tell more people about it. So one of the big goals today is to walk you guys through, tell you some of the new plans. I want to get some advice from you guys and ask questions and give you some other big news. So we got to do that. So we need to test some different things. Now, I'm going to pull it up on the share screen here. I'm going to pull it over. You can see I've got a chat, and this is all set up through Restream. And this is syncing up the chat from YouTube, from Twitch, and from Periscope. It doesn't seem to be able to do it with Facebook, but I'm not even sure if it is currently streaming to Facebook. So that has to get figured out. So all that seems good. So the very first thing is everybody who's there, who's listening, if you can type into the chat the platform that you're currently viewing it on and what is the audio sounding good and is it out of sync? And if it's not in sync, tell me if it's the audio's behind or if it's ahead. And also any feedback or anything you guys have to throw out there. So that would all be excellent. So let's see, this seems to be working well. Now we're way behind. It seems I'm watching on Twitch on my other computer and it's clearly significantly. Actually, that's not true. I didn't click the screen over. So I'll see how long it takes to flip over. Hopefully the lag is pretty minimal is the hope here. Oh, actually, it's pretty quick. Actually, yeah, this is within like a 5 or 10 second thing. So, so some people are saying the camera is tilted up. Now, is the camera tilt up just from my framing or from the overall framing? Or are you saying it's tilted too far down? Because we got different things to do depending on what that is. If you're saying I'm cropped off a little bit, then what I'll actually do is raise my chair a little bit and not slouch. So Yeah, my framing. So I'll just raise my chair up a little bit. I actually had lowered it, but depends on how because the camera is set up here and I'm close to it, and the background I want to have like lots of nice depth of field. It's very specific. So if I slouch a little bit, I'm way below frame. If I sit up really tall, I might be up out of frame. So I got to stay in that nice medium. So okay, he was cropping the chin. So once again, if you can respond in the chat about audio specifically. So Sam is saying that Twitch and YouTube are okay, but Twitch is better, and that you're going to continue to watch on Twitch. So that's cool. That's okay. Twitch is synced and looking good. So excellent. Good to hear that. And I'm just looking at that Twitch chat. Actually, does Restream go from the top? The Restream chat is not syncing up everything properly. Unless people are doing it. Okay, some people are saying, oh, Chad is here. Hi, Chad. How's it going? We're in the testing phase of the new stream. So Chad is checking us out on YouTube, and he's saying YouTube is good and in sync. So the only one we haven't gotten a call back from is anyone who might be in Periscope, if that is working. I've never personally used Periscope, but it was easy enough to set up, and I thought it would be worth checking out. So if all that stuff is looking good, then we can move on to some additional things. We can start talking about some of the cool plans and whatnot. Oh man, there's so much. I got notes here and things to talk about. So first of all, the big news here is I'm back. We're here for live streaming, and I have a brand new company. The brand new company is Rocket Lasso. I was already putting the link in Slack. You guys probably already saw it. And you can see here, I'm going to share the screen. And I'm going to scroll up here so you see we get this nice little site here. Actually, I'm going to refresh because when you first load, it's got this fun time-lapse video in the background that's going to play through. It's an old, unreleased, really long tutorial series. I could probably never properly release, but it was just kind of rotting away. So I thought that's a cool place to put it. So we've got the new company, Rocket Lasso. We got this fun logo. I've got a team of people working on website stuff. So the first important thing to say is this is like the website like pre-launch. So this is we've got lots of ideas. I got this big layout, and we've got phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 for plans for the website. So this is phase 1, which is just get something up quickly, get the links on there, embed the live stream, and we can start creating content. That was the main thing. I wanted that up quickly. And the hope is in a couple weeks, and development always takes longer than you think it will, but hopefully in a couple weeks, there'll actually be navigation here. There'll be some different buttons. We're going to start getting tutorials recorded. We're going to have a whole library of those. All that stuff is going to be really fun. So that should all be good. So Sam also is in web development, and he worked for you. I don't know. Maybe I can ask some questions. But I do have an entire team already working on this, and I've had them working on it for some weeks already. So all that is good and excellent and fun. What is Rocket Lasso? Rocket Lasso is my attempt to double down on all the things I love about teaching and Cinema 4D. So it is going to be a bigger emphasis on live stream. So I'm going to be online more often. That is definitely a big goal here. And another part of the plan is to be recording tutorials, but like tutorials that I don't have to be incredibly focused on motion graphics and motion design specifically. We might be able to do more fun things, maybe some VFX work, or maybe some character animation, or maybe other things that didn't used to be that much of a focus with work I used to do. So all of that is fun and exciting, and there's so many cool things. I'm going to be going to NAB. I'm going to be speaking at NAB, representing the new company. There's also a big hope that, given some time down the road, to start developing additional tools and have tools for for sale and whatnot. But there's a bunch of important details that I need to go over with everybody. So here's the first thing, and we've only got, this is supposed to be a nice, quiet, intimate audience. So I'm gonna close and restart my syncing up chat thing, because it's only feeding me YouTube, and I can see new messages coming in on Twitch, and those are not coming up in my synced up chat. So let's restart that. Maybe that has to start after the stream. I don't know. I'm learning these things. Okay, it's there, and it says it's got 3 connections, and I'm going to type in there and say, hello. I'm seeing the chat from here on. Okay, so I saw that pop up in Twitch, and hopefully, and actually, if you see that message pop up, especially if there's anybody following from Slack on the Periscope, please put in a message so I can see it can pop up. So, and then the message came through on Twitch, and somebody let me know if you saw the message on YouTube. I don't have that up separately. I am kind of curious how it's looking on YouTube. And when we're kind of done with the main stuff, I might spend, if anybody wants to stick around and help me out, and I'm going to go and try some of the different, open up YouTube, make sure it's looking good there, and people can be there and test things with me. That would be great. Um, Honestly, leave YouTube for live. Chris, I work with clients all over the years, and YouTube never really worked fine for live. That's what Sam is saying, to not use YouTube. There's a couple different questions here. There's a lot of things I'm trying to figure out. As you guys know, Twitch was always my platform of preference. I liked going on Twitch. It seemed to work pretty straightforward. But tutorials live on YouTube. You put your tutorials up on YouTube, and there's more. There's not that many people watching Twitch for creatives. I mean, there's some, but it's mostly for video games. So if I'm live streaming on YouTube, then there's more of a chance that if somebody's watching a tutorial, that they're like, oh, it's live, and then more people will join in live there. And until I'm actually signed up and making money off of YouTube and or Twitch, they don't, I think in their terms of agreement, you can't make money from both, or you can't restream to another if you're making money off of one. So at that point, it would have to be figure out which one to stick with and go with that. But right now, it's just testing it. Oh, someone's on Periscope. Awesome. Thank you so much. Um, let's see. You guys know I'm terrible with names. Zalam? The Great Zalam is how I'm going to pronounce that. But thank you for jumping over to Periscope and testing it out. I know you're jumping around to different ones and helping out, so I super appreciate it. So awesome. It's good to hear Periscope. Now, is Facebook doing anything right now? I'm curious what that would even look like. I've actually got the Facebook window open here, and I'm going to click. So once again, yeah, it's not saying I'm live. It says I updated my web address. That's fun. But yeah, the live is not showing up. I'm going to have to look into that. I even paid money to be able to have it go to Facebook. So I'll have to look into that. Okay, so let's move on. So first of all, everyone who's currently hanging out is only in the Slack channel, the old AskGSG Slack channel. And the AskGSG Slack channel was always completely unaffiliated with Grayscale Gorilla. In fact, the AskGSG Slack channel spawned when Lucas was like, hey, we should keep this conversation going after the live streams end. After the streams are over, we should keep on hanging out. And Lucas really fought, and he kept it going, and he started growing it, and he's really great about community. And then we got some moderators on there like Scott and Petru, and I've actually been in conversations with them for a while about various things and some plans I had, and asking advice and what they'd like to see, and I had some proposals of what I would like to do. So because the AskGSG Slack spawned because of live shows that I used to do, and that was the primary focus of it, and it's definitely grown from there. And I guess just to kind of gush about the Slack channel a little bit more, another thing that's always been really cool is, well, there's a great tight-knit community in there, but I've loved, especially that Lucas has been the weird one spearheading it a lot, but not exclusively, but all the group projects and the chain projects, and just there's so much more group collaboration going, and I would love to double down on that and feature that stuff more and whatnot. So it's going back a little ways when I was starting to do some of this planning, but I've spoken with Lucas and Scott and Petru, and now I want to talk to all of you from the proper people in the Slack channel, that the current plan is, and that's if everybody's happy with it, the current plan is that the AskGSG Slack channel is going to become the official Rocket Lasso channel. So it's going to be the Rocket Lasso Slack. It's going to be the community page for all the new stuff that I'm trying to do. And so it would, we'd be changing the logo over, changing the name over. And the idea is that effectively nothing changes. We start trying to find more people to come hang out in the Slack channel. All the leadership stays the same. And honestly, I'm going to be pretty hands off as far as the way things are managed, because it's already great. I already love the way it goes. So so purposes for the change. Well, first of all, AskGSG spawned because I love doing these live streams. So it kind of following me to this next stage where we can double down and do more live streams is really exciting. It just seems like a really good match. On top of that, one of the main ideas is on the Rocket Lasso webpage, there's going to be, and these are all just like plans, so everything can change. And if people have cool ideas, then I'm super open to it. I want advice and ideas or critiques or anything on any of these ideas. So The main thing is, oh, on the Rocket Lasso homepage, there's going to be a community section. There's going to be a button for community. When you click on the community tab, it's going to become the new hub for all of the community-based things that the AskGSG Slack has been doing. And as you know, Lucas set up a website, and people helping Lucas. I don't know exactly who was all had their hands on the website, but they started doing blog posts and promoting the different projects and kind of making that a hub, and you could automatically sign up through that. All of that's going to transfer over to the Rocket Lasso community page, where there's going to be an entire blog section, which is just going to be focused on kind of highlights from the Slack and the results of the group projects and announcing the group projects. And I'm going to be able to promote those more and put those out into the world and make sure that people see the results more, and we can get more people involved in doing these different things. And who knows? There's a lot of potential just to have fun there and really double down on it. At some point, if things go well, we might be able to start doing some prizes. I don't know. There's a lot of fun potential things. So the idea is just like more openness, more cool community things, and that community section is going to be run fairly autonomously by the Slack channel. Like, I'm going to help with like maybe some of the art directing and the way the website looks and whatnot, but we're going to have a separate blog section just for that stuff. So I think that's going to be really cool. I'm really excited to see that grow too and get more people in the community. And I mean, even in the Slack channel, we got so many people that are there, and the regulars are so great and so committed. So I want to make sure that everybody likes these ideas and that they want to try and help grow that and just make it a bigger, more open community. I think that would be really fun. So that is one really big announcement there. I'm going to make sure I open up Cinema 4D here in case we need to pop it open, especially if we start doing questions. I don't know if we'll do any real any kind of asking questions. By the way, the new show, this live show, the website is Rocket Lasso, but the show is going to be Rocket Lasso Live. I'm going to be, well, what's the right word? I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry. So Sam is asking if there's going to be a section for beginners. Can somebody, separate thing, I'm looking at this feed and it's all Twitch people talking, so it seems like most people are on Twitch, but could somebody who's in YouTube right now just put a message in? I want to make sure that the YouTube messages are popping into the chat window. Appreciate it. Okay, so as I was saying, I gotta remember to look more at the camera and not at the picture of the camera over here. So what's cool here is I have one monitor here and one monitor here, and the camera's just barely not catching them. So that's fun. So yeah, double down on all the cool community stuff, more community projects, be more engaged, spend more time in the Slack channel answering things. I think all that will be great. Now, let's see. Let's go. Well, actually, let's slow down there. Does anybody have any? Oh, thank you, all the YouTube people, for putting in quick messages. For everybody who's hanging out right now, and we'll put some of the stuff in the Slack channel, and I'm not sure when the stuff is going to change over. Heck, for all I know, right now, like somebody could be changing graphics and whatnot over on the Slack channel as it is. But that stuff is all going to transfer over very soon, as long as everybody is down with the idea and once again, any feedback is great. So, does anybody have any ideas or thoughts or any changes that they'd like to see there? There were some cool ideas. It was already, well, first of all, the Slack channel was already getting rebranded, so there's some cool ideas with like Prism, and then let me pull this up because I think it's important. Here we go. I'm gonna put it over on the screen, and let's switch it over here. So here we go. I've got a nice giraffe prepared here, just in case if we need a mascot. Then we've always got this giraffe here for all the Mo Giraffe stuff you guys were doing, which was amazing. So we've got our little pet giraffe here. So whenever we need an animal, I can go and grab this. I bought this off of Turbo Squid the other day just in preparation for this. Jumping back, let's talk about some additional details. Well, first of all, we'll have some communication in the Slack channel about ideas or changes. But you can also throw it in here. Steven is saying there's a tiny bit of lag on YouTube. So that's something, so it's always tough to investigate these things because you can't be properly testing it without it being live. And also, Stephen, when you say lag, do you mean the audio is out of sync, or that it's kind of choppy, or do you mean that it's behind Twitch but it's still running smoothly? So yeah, let me know with that stuff. So yeah, there's the nice little Mo giraffe hanging out there. We can always use him for any purposes that we need. Pop up the website here again. Emphasis on community. I'm just making sure all the chats are still kind of syncing up. Yeah, okay, those all still seem to be doing quite well. I like it. Okay, so let's move on to some other things I'm planning and hoping to doing. Like I said, early on, there's going to be a heavy focus on live streaming, and there's going to be a heavy focus on getting some tutorials out there. And it's actually really exciting. It's going to take a little while until I can get them out. I'm hoping to have something out before NAB starts. But what I want to do is get as the introduction series on Rocket Lasso, is build out a series of advanced dynamics tutorials. Like I'm I'm one of when it comes to dynamics in Cinema 4D, I've always put a lot of effort into making them controllable and art directable, and I've had to do that for a lot of the freelance projects I've taken in the last couple of years. Is I've had to focus on those and on dynamics and controlling them. So I feel like I'm really qualified to make some really fun, advanced but approachable tutorials about advanced dynamics in Cinema 4D. And I think it's going to be some really high quality content. I was honestly struggling a little bit. It was like, this could be something that would be worth buying, but I think it's going to be a cool thing to put out there, introduce Rocket Lasso to more people, have it be discoverable. But I've also got a lot of fun ideas for more of just fun, weird, creative projects to do that should be fun. Now, having said all that, it's a brand new company, and while I want to be focusing on this stuff, as of right now, the company itself doesn't really have much in the way of income. So this is moving on to one of the early phase one things, and I think a bunch of you already saw it, but that I'm setting up a Patreon. And you guys, it looks like a bunch of you already signed up in the basics of Patreon, which is really fun. Um, so, okay, just looking, Steven and Donna are saying that it seems like Twitch is behind, but still looking good. And I expect them all to not be perfectly synced up, which is fine. I'm fine with one echoing the other. I just don't want audio out of sync, and I don't want lag or frames dropping. Especially, we're gonna have to. Honestly, it'd probably be a good idea to pop open a scene file before we're done and hit render and make sure the stream doesn't go like. Um, Anyway, back to the point. In the early days, I don't know how it's going to go. There's a lot of things that have to be figured out over time. And I'm trying to make this be fun and casual and not get, and then on my end, not make it super stressful, not burn out. So it's not like I have a 5-year plan here. It's like, okay, here's phase one, phase two, phase three, just for the website. But in the early days, especially, Patreon's going to be really important. And you guys are this tiny little group of people who are already really dedicated to the live streams and the stuff that I do. So I wanted to run by you some of my ideas for Patreon before I put them up. Now, just to make the link available, I had to put one of the tiers, and a bunch of you have already signed up for that. But you might want to wait until you hear about some of the possible benefits I'm putting into some of the other tiers. And this is something I really need feedback on because and I'm just being super open with you guys. There's this tricky balance of I want the main thing is supposed to be openness and community and learning as a group and all this doing this. So I don't want to take things and I don't want to lock them away behind some amount of money that you have to pay. I want like the final content to always be available to everyone. When it comes to this kind of like free form stuff and tutorials, in the future, who knows? Maybe there's big expensive things. I don't know, but for now, when it comes to tutorials, when it comes to live streams, I want everybody to have access to it, and I think that would be fun. Um, but at the same time, you guys know with Patreon, if you support anything on Patreon, that um, more people sign up if you're like, oh, you only get this thing if you pay money, and now you get this super secret thing. Now, the funny thing is, with all the Patreon, and something I've been struggling with, is a lot of people's Patreon, the stuff that we do already, which is like our focus, is what a lot of people do as their tiers. It's like, oh, there's a Slack channel. If you pay a certain amount of money, you get into the Slack channel. Well, we already have that. That's already there. It's already free. It's like if you pay a certain amount of money, you get to be in the live streams. It's like, well, we already do that. We already do live streams. That's the main thing. We want these to be free and open and have lots of people in the chat, lots of people asking questions. So that's already super important. And then and Gumbo's already ahead of the game here. There's the tricky angle, which is you can always do merchandise, but merchandise is a lot of overhead. There's a lot of difficulty. There's a lot of struggle. I'm hoping that there's some services where it's like, oh, you can do t-shirts and it automatically will take the order, get their information and send it out because Back in the day, I remember um, as a group that we sent out T-shirts, and we had to hand ship and hand address T-shirts and send them out, and it was a nightmare, and it ate so much time. It's the worst use of my time. So the idea of a lot of physical merchandise is not appealing if it's going to take up my time, because I'm finding out very quickly that a lot of the stuff takes a lot of time. And it's gotten to the point where, during the day I'm like talking to lawyers and signing papers and preparing things and figuring out health insurance and all these different things. So I don't get to do any 3D except at night after work is done. So adding additional things on there is just additionally challenging. So we got to do that. But yeah, if people are saying Redbubble is something, I will definitely check that out as a merchant. Could somebody put the Redbubble link in the live channel and Slack? That because this chat's going to disappear and I might not have it. So if you have any cool links, make sure you also put them in the live channel in the Slack, just so I can see them and do it. Oh my God, I just saw the Hulk giraffe image over there. That's amazing. Hang on, that's too good. I'm going to pull it up on the screen just so it's captured. Look at this thing. That's amazing. So I want to run by you guys my ideas for Patreon, and you tell me what you're thinking or what you think about it. So first of all, you already see I've got this Patreon set up. I got some really basic text. Oh, let me make sure I'm sharing the screen. I got some basic text going on here. It all seems to be working well. The audio is continuing through right when I'm changing these screens. So I've already got the basics set up and one little message. But right now there's one tier, and it's a $2 tier. And I could jump over, or so I can jump around, but I want to pull up my little document here and go over some of these with you. So I don't want spoilers, but so try not to read ahead as I'm describing these, because I want to kind of address them one after another. So I want to do a whole bunch of different tiers, and like I said, I want to keep the final content always open and always available to everybody. I'm also super open to you guys having opinions on maybe the prices are wrong, or maybe it'd be better if this was rearranged, or maybe it'd be cool to add this thing in as well. But also keep in mind that it's really easy for you guys to say, or for anyone, yeah, you guys are the dedicated ones, but it'd be really easy for some random person who finds us to be like, I want everything for free. I mean, obviously everybody wants everything for free, but we need to deal with the practicalities of this, which is what's the struggle here. So I'm just going to go through these, and I want to hear your opinions. Go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I will kind of check them out as we're going. But we've got the first tier, the basic one, which is the cadet tier. And this is kind of just designed for students who like the live streams. I want to contribute a little something. So just $2, and you're supporting me. So you guys might have already seen that one on the Patreon. But the next one is the $5 cowpoke, which is early access to the videos before they're posted up on YouTube. So live streams and everything completely the same, but whatever the final tutorial schedule ends up being. Let's say I'm launching a tutorial on Thursdays, and not every Thursday. I can't keep up with that schedule, but let's say that on Thursdays tutorials come out. Maybe you would see the tutorial on Patreon the Tuesday before. Or if it's launching on Tuesday, then you'll see it the Thursday before, something like that. Like tutorials come out on Tuesday. I like tutorial Tuesdays. That's just fun. So yeah, if it comes on Tuesday, then you would see it the Thursday before. So that's a $5 one. Just another way of you getting a little something for supporting. So the $10 one. This one's an important one. And I hope a lot of people want to hit at least this threshold is my goal. Oh yeah. Somebody's saying to zoom up a little bit. I can totally do that. Oh yeah, so I don't spoil. That's a good idea. Don't spoil it. Okay, we're way zoomed in now. So the technician level. So here is the idea. At $10, you're a technician tier. And the idea here, and I might need to change the text a little bit, but the idea is that I'm planning on doing it. I will do a bonus live stream. And it's not going to be a Q&A live stream. It's going to be a live stream where it's a project of some sort, like maybe some project that's going to take hours and hours and hours to create. And every time I do the stream, I'll continue working on the project and only ever work on it on the live stream while recording. And the idea is that by paying $10, you'll get to come and hang out when those live streams are happening. Those live streams will only happen to people who are on that tier, and you'll get to see every single minute of working on the projects from beginning to end. and then we'll do polls on Patreon of like what the some ideas of projects and have you guys suggest ideas of things to focus on and really work the way through. And some of the stuff might be things I choose where it's like, oh, I'm working on an animation for the logo of Rocket Lasso, but it could also be like, hey, everybody's been wanting to try and rig some, let's try and rig a car or something. It's like, okay, that's going to take some time. And it's not super exciting in a normal live stream format, but for the special one where people want to sit and watch a longer process and see me make every mistake along the way, that's the idea of this one. And I want to make it clear. So I'm even going to put it on Patreon, which is like the final, like, even though this is, you'll get to see these live, the final projects will be public. They'll go out there to everybody. Potential breakdowns or fast forwards of these will be available to everybody. Because once again, it's really important to me that this is a community of openness and sharing. And then it's also possible that let's say we're rigging a car tutorial, and it's like, you know what, like this little section where we modeled a hubcap, that'd make for a cool tutorial. And I record that as a separate tutorial entirely, and it ends up on YouTube for the entire world. So just throwing it out there. But I wanted to put this as one of the lowest tiers technician, just so that there's always going to be some people hanging out there. It's not like we need a ton of people, but it's something for people to come see. So moving on to the $20 tier. Also, every time you jump a tier, you get all the previous benefits. Jumping up to the $20 tier, it's the engineer tier. And here you will get access to all the scene files from all the live shows. So as long as it's content that I own, then it will get zipped up and shared on Patreon for everybody who's following at the $20 level. So if you want the scene files, then you sign up at the $20 tier, and then you have the files for your own reverse engineering purposes, hence the name. And you'd also get all the previous benefits, so you get to hang out in the live stream and get early access. Jumping up. So here is... and here's where it starts getting a little more questionable, and where I want your guys' feedback on things. The next one is a $50 tier, and the idea is like in the control room, and it's you really like Rocket Lasso, you really want to support the stuff that I'm doing. And here I will take your name and list it as a supporter at the end of all the live streams and at the end of all the YouTube videos, so there'll kind of be like a scrolling credits, and that's where that will show up. And then we're going to, the hope is to have a special locked off room, well, either on Patreon or possibly on the Slack. So if you're a member of this one, there'll be a room where I guess another important thing to say is with the live streams, you guys remember, especially in years past when I was still working out of bomb camp, that, let me change the screen for a second. When I was still working out of bomb camp, that it was really easy to have local guests in, because they would go to the studio and they would come and hang out, and then we'd answer questions like a normal show. And it was really fun having guests, and it's always really fun having Chad on the show. Chad is the guest most often. It'd be great to have Chad on the show still. So live show guests were always really important, and it got a lot harder when I started working on my bedroom. But I think we're in a better setup now to have guests on. And I want to be able to have guests on two different levels. I want to be able to have guests in person with me in the new Rocket Lasso studio. But I also want to have guests from over the internet. Like I want to be able to like essentially call up EJ and have him be a guest on the stream and hang out, and he'll be here for a Rocket Lasso Live, and we'll be talking to the crowd and answering questions and creating things just like normal, but maybe with a focus on like EJ's got the cool sketch and tune and all the little animated characters and everything, so maybe we can focus the questions a little more that direction. You guys know how it would go with guests. When Chad was on, it's like, oh, let's focus on third-party rendering, because he knows that stuff really well. So anyway, getting back to the Patreon stuff. Boop. Another perk besides getting your name in the credits, another $50 perk is you'll find out who the live show guests are going to be extra early, and you'll be able to submit questions for a bonus interview I'm going to be doing. So my hope is that when a guest is on, I'm going to start like the show a half hour early or something, and just record with them and ask them questions and do like a little interview. And so another little perk on this $50 one is just that you'd be able to ask questions that I will filter through to the person. And these are more like interview questions, not like Cinema 4D questions. Those are during the live stream. And after that interview, we go live and then talk to the world. So I think that'd be pretty fun. So that's that one. And Chad in the chat said he'd be happy to be on, which would be awesome. Man, everybody's just chatting away in the Twitch feed, and nobody's chatting in the YouTube. So, and definitely the reason we're streaming to all these different platforms is because I want to see which one people naturally gravitate towards. I don't want to force things. I definitely want things to be more natural. So that's the $50 one. Oh yeah, and you'll get early access to the bonus interviews and all the previous benefits. So now some of these go. I mean, I don't expect everybody to pay. I don't expect anybody to pay anything. But if people want to pay, then um, I don't want to put anything out of the range of people being able to do it. So anyway, let's just dive into it. The $100 one I have is Among the Stars, and you really like what I'm doing with the live streams and the tutorials, and you want to support it in a big way. So that's a $100 one. And so the idea here is you get a special shout out by name. So I'd actually at the end of a stream or at the end of the tutorial be like, hey, special thanks to this person and this person and this person for supporting it. So it's really like you really are digging the stuff that I'm doing, and maybe I helped you out in some special way, or answered a question that was really stumping you, or some tutorial answered a question for you that made you money, and that kind of doubles down for this final one, which is a $500 one. Um, this is a note for myself, but it's the Rocket Wrangler one, and even where it's there, it's going to say like Rocket Wrangler Studio. So the idea here is this is not expected for individuals, and I don't want anybody to feel like that there's any expectation there for sure. So the idea here is like as a studio or a creative who found something I taught you, that if I taught you something that saved the day or made you lots of money, and you want to help keep the lights on over at Rocket Lasso, then this is the one where it's like, okay, cool, you're really really helping out. So this is, it's kind of thing where it's like, I don't know, with a lot of streamers, there's always a couple of big fish, and I just want to have an option if somebody wants to do that. So I don't know that we'd ever get anybody doing this, but if it ever happened, then it'd be super cool. And the idea here is like you get a like kind of a personalized shout out for you or your company. So everything here is all about prior to this, it's about individuals. It's your name, but it's not about it's not a company. But here the idea is like this would be a studio or something, and they like something, so we shout out the studio. And then here we'd put a personalized shout out to them at the end of the streams, at the end of the tutorials, and also prominently feature the name or logo if they're a studio at the end of the streams, and maybe put a link up. Actually, I should put that in there. Like literally, I was making this list up yesterday, so like these ideas are super fresh, and it would be like put a link. I don't even know if this is possible, but essentially put a link to big. Well, yeah, put a link to. I don't know. Put a link to the business if that's a thing. Link to the business below, just like, hey, they're a supporter, so here's a link to their business. Is an idea. So that is all of them. That's everything I put here, and I would love to see what you guys think, just in general. If these are, and I'm going to zoom it out a little bit, so actually, I guess you're not seeing it now, and hopefully the resolution is good enough you can see. I'll pull this up still so you can kind of see them. So hopefully this is well. I'd like to see what people's general opinion is um, on the way it is. Yeah. I can't pass renders off to Chad or Nick anymore. Well, Chad can be a guest. Um, how much to get our names tattooed? Producer level. I don't know if there's any amount. I don't have any tattoos, and I'm probably going to go my entire life without having a tattoo. So that is highly unlikely. Aw, Chad, I miss you too. Um, so, Sean, you dig it? Awesome. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. So, and I think you can change it. I know, like, already, like, six people, as soon as I put the link in, like, 2 hours ago, like, six people immediately went and were signing up. So, but that was before I could build these tiers. So I just wanted to really, at this point, I've run this by like a friend, but I want to, you guys are the ones who are going to be interacting with this directly and seeing kind of what my plans are. So I wanted to get the opinion of the Slack. A $1 million tier for getting a tattoo. I don't know. Honestly, it does go to one of those fun things where you do the hypotheticals of like, to the point where it's like, would you cut your left arm off for a certain amount of money? And it's like, in theory, there's an amount of money where you're like, hell yeah, like with that amount of money, I'll get a cool super cyborg arm, like, and then have, unlimited money forever and then solve world hunger. Like, obviously, there's always an amount, but I'm not going to answer what the tattoo amount would be. $100,000 to be my best friend. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can get crazy with some of these tiers, guys. But as much as I appreciate all that, Sphere wouldn't get a tattoo for 1 million. That's an yeah. I guess it depends on what it is. I mean, like the idea of like a tiny tattoo on like your on the upper arm or on the back of your leg or something. It's like there's is a big difference from like getting a throat tattoo. Those are completely different. Um, but yeah, any Guitar Boy saying you'd also love a tip jar of sorts. Um, I completely agree. I mean, Patreon is good for what it does, but it is, there's also been trouble with Patreon in the past. Not with me personally, but there are creatives who will do things. And I mean, honestly, we do pretty innocent content here. It's not like we're doing anything risque um, or questionable on the line or anything. So I feel like we're pretty safe. But Patreon takes a significant cut of things. So a dollar to me is a significant amount to them. I don't even know what the breakdown is. So it was too much of a pain to get up for this phase one of the website. But there's a good chance that in addition to the Patreon, that we'll just have like a PayPal tip button or something. So those are like individual separate things. And in the future, if things are going well, then potentially set up our own system entirely, so it's completely removed from all these, and it would just be whatever the credit card company charges you for those types of systems. And there is a handful of them. I mean, and there's a lot of different platforms too. There's like buy me a cup of coffee, there's this, there's that. um, um, so this is more about like, okay, phase one, set this Patreon up, what is practical. So and like I said, I don't have any expectations of anything. Now somebody's saying, okay, so I mean, and once again, we're just being open. Sam is saying that he'd prefer if the engineer tier was 10, so essentially dropping that down. Now here's the tricky part: is I see what you're saying, getting the scene files. Now, having said that, in the old AskGSGs, like the only way you got the scene files is if you bought the whole season, which would mean you were paying like a lot, like hundreds of dollars to get the scene files. So this is actually, I think, cheaper for the scene files than they used to be. Is one thing, and then I want to make this. I want to make the tier where people come hang out for the bonus project-based live stream. I want to make that really low. I want that to be a low one, so that it's a threshold that most people can hit and come hang out. Because I want a good amount of people hanging out in that stream. And like I said, the cool final end results there and tutorials that come from it, those will be available for everybody. This is just about the every minute of the process. Guitar Boy is saying yeah, PayPal tip button would definitely be great. Um, so yeah, I completely agree, and I do that. I do that a lot too. I mean, I follow like 3 or 4 people on Patreon, and I've definitely done tips and repeating payments on PayPal. So effectively, that's on the list. It's going to happen. It just couldn't happen in the short time I wanted to get this website up, so we could start doing these live streams. Um, um, I'm not sure what you. Zalam is just saying the giraffe is naked. Is that supposed to be a tier, like a giraffe tier? That would be funny. Like it could be a cowpoke. The tier five, the $5 tier, the cowpoke tier. But you don't really say giraffe poke. I don't think that translates, so I'm not sure. Um, and then the final tier used to be called, instead of Rocket Wrangler, I like Rocket Wrangler, but the final tier used to be called Cowboy Astronaut. But I was like, you know what? If there's a Cowboy Astronaut tier and it was really expensive, I would still want that because I'd want to be a Cowboy Astronaut. And then I really love SciShow and all of the crash courses and their Patreon. If you pay the most, you become president of space. But if they weren't already doing that, that would be a great one to have be the top tier. Like one person is available to do president of space per month. But the but yeah, I want to run all of that by you guys and see. So once again, any feedback, I will see it here in this chat for now. But also, this discussion will continue on the Slack channel. So that would be a big thing. And then just putting out there, as far as income directly for the stuff I'm going to be producing, this is going to be the only income for a little while until I figure out some sort of product or plugin or something, and it gets built and it gets shipped. So through that time, um, this is just helping give me more freedom to put more time into live stuff, more freedom for me to put more time into tutorials, and to personalize it more for what people think is really interesting. Like, I really love motion graphics. It's a great industry and I love it, but doing some VFX type stuff, like doing more compositing into live plates or trying to match lighting or rigging and animating characters. Like these are things that I love to do that in the past weren't really a focus. So being able to focus more on that is really exciting. I also have to say that I'm super excited for especially next week. Next week is going to be the first real stream where we might recap a couple of these things for new people because honestly, right now the Slack channel is the only one that knows I have a new company outside of some personal friends. So I'll be announcing to the world maybe later this afternoon, but between now and next week, I'll be announcing to the world the new company, the new website, everything. I want to have the Patreon properly set up beforehand and whatnot. So the next week's live show will be Let's Open Up Cinema. It's going to be like a little recap in the beginning, 20 minutes or less, 15 minutes or less. Like, hey, new company doing the stuff. Let's start the show and start answering questions. And I've been going nuts wanting to do a live stream where I get to talk about R20 and fields and figure this stuff out. Something that's a little sad is in the time I've been trying to set all this stuff up and just with some different focus from the last couple months, I have not gotten to spend that much time in cinema. So I actually have to, I need to start getting deeper in the fields. I've done some crazy stuff with it, but there's going to be distinct improvement on it. I'm also doubling down on trying to learn some more about the third-party renderers. Right now, I'm trying to focus a little bit on Redshift, but when it comes to some of these other projects, I want to be like, okay, on this one, I'm using Redshift and I'm going to force my way through it. And then honestly, even in the new cinema stuff, I have barely played with all the new node-based stuff. It's just too bad because it came out with all these amazing new nodes in R20, but it's at the same time that everybody's transferring over to third-party rendering. So it's like, ah, oh, dang it! Like now we get this amazing node system, but everybody's moving away from the cinema built-in physical renderer. So that's a tricky one to walk. Where it's like, okay, this new node system, but I don't need to learn it if I'm going to be doing Redshift. So I don't know. A lot of things to learn, a lot of things to play with. There's even potential, I mean, ideas of like, let's tinker with maybe that's in the bonus shows. Like, let's spend some time in Houdini. Let's do this, and maybe if I learn something cool, that ends up being a tutorial. And then tying Houdini into cinema. I mean, like, we're gonna be focused on cinema. That's just inevitable. It's where my heart is, and it's where what I've been using for at this point almost literally 20 years. Um, um, let's see. Somebody, Cinemazuka, cool name by the way, said you try and work any future plugins or products into a higher tier of Patreon. Um, I'm not sure what to do about that. I don't want to. There's very distinct columns of things, and the idea of tools or plugins of some sort intermingling along with live streams feels a little bit weird to me. When it comes to a tool, I'd rather that we have that me and people who buy it have a very straightforward like I'm a creator and you purchased a product. That way I'm not like, oh, there's this abstract. I really like when there's a direct one-to-one to results. So it's like, well, I'm developing this tool, but everybody who's at this particular tier is getting it for free, so they're already paid for it. So when I launch the plugin, there's not going to be as much excitement about it, or and not as many people are going to buy it because they're getting it for free. And then there's just a lot more tech support where people are getting it that might not want it. So there's a lot of tricky bits there. So I'm going to tend to try and keep those separate. Having said that, it's entirely possible that on a bunch of these tiers, it could be like, hey, if you're on a tier, or if you've been, if you're on, I don't know, I'm literally making this up as I'm talking to you guys. But there could entirely be a thing where it's like, hey, if you've been if you've been following on Patreon for 6 months, um, then here's an automatic 5%, 10% discount on a tool that comes out. Like, I don't know, but there's definite possibilities on that. Or like, hey, there's tiers here where you get like a percentage off. I don't know. It's not something I'm implementing right now, and any tools are so far away in the future that I'm not going to put them in here and have people have expectations as like, hey, I bought this thing so I could get tools for free or for cheap, and where's the tool? It's like, well, I'm live streaming and doing this and presenting and running a company, so I don't want to make that messy, but it's something on my mind for sure. Um, let's see. Da, 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 da. Sean is asking what made me want to branch out on my own. Well, first of all, one thing I want to say is me and Grayscale Gorilla, well, let's say me and Nick, and also Rocket Lasso and Grayscale Gorilla have a very good relationship with each other. And I'm continuing to support the plugins at Grayscale Gorilla. So like all that stuff is good. Um, and I'm not going to get into detail on anything. But there's just like certain directions that Grayscale Gorilla want to head, and I want to head in slightly different directions. And it just seemed best for us to separate and continue to pursue things separately. But there's a lot of things that we're going to be able to work together on. And, like already Chad's saying, like, he'll be on the live stream. So, um, yeah, I guess you'll just get a little bit more of the flavor of the way I would be doing things if I was completely in control, as opposed to the way it was in the past. But it should be exciting. I'm super excited. I mean, just even talking to you guys, getting this live stream set up, and I've been having like so many cool phone calls, like talking to different people. In fact, I got a bunch of advice from the Brograph guys on some of the tech setups because that's one of their areas of specialty. And I've been having conversations with people who are super excited about being guests on the live stream. And I'm talking to other small businesses about how the hell to figure out health insurance. Like, there's so many different things to figure out here. Scrolling down, checking some more chat. Thanks for all the comments, everybody. When can you expect the new tiers? Hopefully later today. Essentially, I have these ready, and I was almost going to put them all up, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask everybody for feedback. So the hope is to, it's going to be before I go to bed today. These should be up and available. Essentially, before I tweet it out to the world that, hey, check out Rocket Lasso, and there'll be a live stream on Wednesday. That's why this is episode 0, not episode 1. Okay, so yeah, the new tiers sometime today. The same process for asking questions on the live stream. Randomly selected links. Gumbo, for the most part, I'm going to say yes. There's actually, even back in the day with the regular Ask GSGs, there's always a lot of discussion about how should we gather the questions. And there's always like conversations of like, should we ask for questions on Twitter? Should we ask for questions on a Slack channel and collect the questions? For myself, I always fought for I want to grab the questions from the chat live because then I don't know what's coming. I don't have time to prepare for it. I can be less picky. So if let's say we'll go overboard, but let's say on the Slack channel over the course of a week, there's 100 questions. I can go through and be like, no, 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 and get rid of a whole bunch of them, and then take the three easiest ones. Like I could be like, well, that one I don't know how to do that one, so we're gonna skip it. And I don't know how to do that one, and that one I think I could do, but this one would be pretty easy, would make for a good show, so I'll do that. So the point there being is without the pressure and without the spontaneity of it being there in the moment, I click the link, I don't know what I'm going to get. Essentially, it's a high pressure situation that forces me to think more creatively and more outside the box with this kind of fun pressure, almost this fun peer pressure. There's people watching and I need to figure this out. And we don't always figure it out, and I don't beat myself up if I don't figure it out. But it's fun. It's fun being in that kind of pressure situation for 2 hours a week and being like, okay, cool, we're going to figure this out. And then on those times when it's something that we don't know how to do, that I'm having trouble figuring out, and then the end we figure it out, and it's like, whoa! Those are the best moments, and I wouldn't trade those for anything. Like, those are so much fun that it's worth all the struggle to get those moments. So as of right now, the plan is, yes, just grabbing links out of the channel so that I have to remember. Oh, I'll hopefully just remember. I do have to check. In fact, we can do it right now. Can somebody in Twitch try and post a link in the Twitch chat? Can someone on YouTube try and post a link in the chat? I don't know if links can come through on the chat rooms. So, and then on Periscope, I guess if somebody's on Periscope, if you can try and post a link to, even just post a link to Rocket Lasso, see if that link actually will pop up in the chat, because I don't know if those will. Scrolling down, Tobias. What? No love for Arnold? That's not true. And in the development of Light Kit, I got to spend a bunch of time in Octane and in Arnold and in Redshift. I got to It's not like I'm good at them, but I got to learn like where the lights are in the menu and the basics of how they work. So I get to do all of them. Right now, I think I just like the way Redshift looks and the way the way it's interlinked. My second choice right now would be Arnold because I love that they implemented the Cinema 4D noises, and I've already in I'm working on this little project, and we can even talk about it a little bit. I'm working on this animation involving the shelf behind me, just for the company. But I was like, I'm going to do this in Redshift, and there was no noises. I was like, there's only like the three built-in noises. I was like, it's driving me nuts. I need my Cinema 4D noises here. So distinct possibility that that will jump renderers, and even that, like I said, especially with the the bonus stream, we'll have to come up with a name for it. I should probably come up with a name before put it on Patreon. But when it comes to the long form project bonus live streams, I think the idea would be like, okay, in this project we're doing this thing, and we're going to use Redshift. And the next time we do it, it's like, okay, we're doing this, but this time we're going to use Arnold, and you'll see me struggle through figuring these things out in Arnold. So the idea is this is a way to force myself into doing more rendering because honestly, I'm not the rendering guy. Like for a while at Grayscale, we were doing the Instagrams, and I got to challenge myself a bunch to create some pretty renders. It's just not what I do. I'm more of a technical behind the scenes kind of guy. So doing renders was fun and challenging, but I was also using only physical, and there's obviously limitations to physical. I mean, all of them have limitations, but a high quality render would take so long, and lighting would take so long because you just don't have that real time feedback. But yeah, the idea is, and even Octane, like Octane definitely has its uses, and it can be really fun to zip around. I mean, the instant feedback from Octane is super satisfying, so they definitely have that going. Sam is saying if I'm recording, yes, I am recording. It should automatically be available on Twitch for however long, but it's also going to automatically get uploaded to the YouTube channel. Actually, it's not automatically, but I can put it on there. I'm planning on it existing. So I will put a link to this. I don't think this will be like a public stream. I'm not going to put this in a public place, or I guess out in the world in general. But I will get a unlisted link and put it in the live Slack channel. Yes, I know I'm a little behind in the chat because everybody's got really good questions. But somebody's saying maybe a discount for higher tiers, and yes, maybe a discount for higher tiers. Although that discount that won't exist until there's something to sell. I don't want people buying a higher tier with anticipation of getting a tool for a discounted price, and that tool doesn't exist for a year, or whatever. I have no idea. Like, there's a lot of infrastructure to set up to do anything. You'd love to see how I build tools. That's a tricky one. Maybe we can build. Honestly, what might be cool, Burns, is that Joff? Is that Jeff? I'm not sure. Georf? Georf? I'm sure that's not how you pronounce it, and it's probably a very normal sounding name in English. But I'm just going to say Burns. What would be fun would be a series focusing on building tools in Espresso, because honestly, when I'm working on a project for a client, that's how you build a tool. I'm constantly building Espresso rigs so that I can rapidly iterate something. So, I'm often doing dynamics, or often doing particle work, or often doing slightly more technical things. And if you're going to do that, and then let's say you have a particle system, you have to copy the entire system 10 times, but then you have to make a single change in one of them. Now you'd have to make a change all those times. So building rigs and building tools for yourself, is incredibly useful, and doing that kind of stuff in Espresso is what got me into building tools. That's one of me and Nick's first conversations ever was about Espresso and doing stuff with CityKit, and it was Espresso based. There was no code. Code is a world that I just do not feel qualified to teach. It's one that I'm very hack things together and figure it out and consult with people who know better than I. But it's always something to keep in mind. Pro Tools. Would I be an NAB presenter as Rocket Lasso? Yes, I am presenting at NAB, and it will be as Rocket Lasso. Does Rocket Lasso need a summer intern? No plans for that. But in the future, who knows? It was at Grayscale Gorilla, the one time we had an intern, Ivan. Like, it was amazing. It was super fun. But there's also legalities that are involved in internships, and like paperwork, and And like money right now is just not a fun thing. Like I'm living, right now it's savings until I get other things established. So, da, 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 da. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, some people agreeing that's good to get real-time random questions from the chat, and I do like it. No shoe commercials, please. They make me cringe. So yeah, Sphere Factory. Well, two things to say on that. First of all, the shoe commercial stuff are always made by incredibly high-end studios, and it's almost one of the coolest uses of motion graphics, like especially abstracted motion graphics, where people you can take the sole of the shoe and animate it in this crazy way, and you can't do that for Coca-Cola, but you can do all these weird creative things in the shoe commercial. Having said that, I would love to. I haven't talked to him yet, but I'd love to talk to Barton Damer and maybe get him on the stream and have him talk about some of the stuff because he's one of the experts on that stuff. Um, but yeah, we got to figure it out. Okay, so people successfully posted on a link on Twitch that I asked for. It does look like there is a successful link from YouTube, and there's nobody on Periscope, which is fine. I didn't expect. I mean, I was surprised somebody responded on Periscope. So once again, if you're on Periscope watching, try and paste a link into the chat just to see if it pops up in the stream, especially so we know next week. So next week I can say, hey, if you want to ask a question, make sure you're in the YouTube stream or inside of the Twitch stream. Dun dun dun. Um, It was open, the self promotion. Um, Looks like that's pretty much covering the questions. Gumbo Inc. Let's see. +1. Yeah, +1 for Barton. I totally agree. Okay. Zalam is saying that he tried Periscope and the link didn't go. I might be able to go into Periscope and say allow links. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. Um, It would be cool to do a take on some top studios and do a series on trying to reverse engineer their style, like Man versus Machine. Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff. I mean a lot of stuff just kind of happens spontaneously. Let's go with spontaneously. That sounds like a word. Um, when people ask a question, it's like, hey, like here's this animation that Man vs. Machine made, and it's like, well, that's Houdini, but let's see what we can do. Especially now with R20 and Fields, like there's some crazy stuff we can probably do. So those will just happen naturally. And I always want to be able to give a lot of credit to them, link back to the company, like have them get credit and say we're inspired by it, and we're not going to try and remake what they made, just be inspired by it and make something similar. Um, So I wouldn't want to be like do a really big derivative series where it's like, okay, let's deconstruct Man versus Machine and make as much of the stuff as we can. I wouldn't want to be derivative like that, but being inspired and people seeing something amazing made by a studio and saying like, oh my God, this is amazing. How did they make it? And then us trying to tackle it. And obviously we never make a well, we rarely make a final animation here. So that's more along the lines of what I think is appropriate. We do have a successful link test popping up from YouTube. Thank you, Donna. Periscope, it did not work. Um, yeah, that seems to be mostly catching up here. We've already been going for over an hour. I guess about an hour of that was actually properly live and not a broken audio thing. So keep on putting any questions you might have in here. Thanks for the feedback so far. I am really excited about all this and transferring everything over. I'm loving the, let me click over here. I'm really loving the, this actually visually is not the best example of the logo. Let me pop it up on Photoshop. But I love the logo, and we've got some new color schemes going. I like this countdown. We got this newsletter. So also, guys and gals, feel free to jump in on the newsletter. I am going to be the opposite of spammy with it. I hate getting hit too many times with newsletters and whatnot. So those will be few and far between, especially since I'm going to have to be the one to manually make them. So yeah, don't expect a lot in the way of newsletters. But when big stuff happens or new, launching a phase 2 of the website or a tool becoming available, then that's where those emails will end up being used. But yeah, pulling this up. Well, this is the Rocket Lasso live thing I was working on. That's not even super final, but let me. I just really love the logo and all the stuff. So let me just turn that layer off. I'm finding Windows. Um, Photoshop's a little clunky, like the way the windows snap and zoom. And I found like if I zoom out, I wonder if this would come through on the stream. Like if I zoom out, even that's bugging me. But like if I zoom to a certain level, I would get like this haloing effect on the edge, even though there wouldn't be a halo. I don't know, just like a lot of weird details. Kind of driving me nuts. But there's a reason I don't spend that much time in Adobe products. And I spend it all in 3D. But yeah, this is working on this. You can see I'm kind of doubling down on this backdrop. I spent a bunch of time on the shelf behind me, let's lean over, like getting some cool stuff up there and whatnot. And I hope to start making a bunch of the items on the shelf in 3D and making some cool, fun animations. Spear Factory is asking, what are the boxes on the shelf? Actually, let me show you because they're super cool, and I've got a bunch of them. So for years, at SIGGRAPH, I think I always said SIGGRAPH, but I think it's supposed to be SIGGRAPH. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the pronunciation, to tell you the truth. Um, but this is a. Oh, my camera's inverted. I didn't realize that. So yeah, that might be backwards for you. But it says Render Man, and it's a walking teapot. So let me pull this out. So this is a Mike Wazowski walking teapot, little wind-up thing. And what would happen is Pixar would have a booth at SIGGRAPH. SIGGRAPH. I'm going to start saying SIGGRAPH. Pixar would have a booth at SIGGRAPH, and at, I think it was like 2 times a day, it'd be like at 2 o'clock, they're giving out the teapots. And at the convention, this was the item to get. And so every one of the teapots on the shelf, every one of these boxes represents a teapot, and that represents a different year I was at SIGGRAPH. They stopped doing it a couple years ago, which makes me sad. But for every year I went, I stood in line and got one of the teapots. And sometimes I'd stand in line multiple times and get one. I'd bring them back as gifts for people because everybody loved them. And they are super cool. I mean, even these tins, like these are tins, and you get individual numbers on them. They're really fun. I really wish they were still doing it. I think they only do it for like they have like a special locked off, like, hey, developers come in for our special conference, and they give them out there, but not the general populace anymore, which is too bad. Gumbo is saying the creepy mask has got to go, and I say no way. Hang on, just because we're having fun here, I'm gonna grab the. So this can't go because I made this. I made this from scratch, actually. I molded the face from a mannequin. It's actually like a T-shirt and layers of glue and everything. So it's like fun little. So this was my Halloween costume 2 years ago. So I like it. Creepy mask. It's a fun story too. So, but. Yep, looks like nine of the boxes. So 9 years of SIGGRAPH, and they stopped doing it like 4 years ago or something. So I've been doing all SIGGRAPHs for a lot of years. Gumbo's like, Gumbo says, I'm out. Yeah, I was intentionally going for like a weird creepy jester thing. So I just wore like a suit and the jester mask and some white gloves. So this is fun. I like making those things though. Any good 3D prints that I can show? Actually, I do have one. I do have one fun one, and as long as we're just kind of here hanging out, I will totally go. An inextricable fear of Harley Quinn. That's cool. Mike is like, "What the hell is happening? I just got here." Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff back there. Different gifts and books and items and collectors things and just things I like. Like I've got the copper sphere I really like. But Cinemazuka is asking about 3D prints. Well, I've got on my desk right here this cute little cube. It was like one of the first things I ever printed. And I do have this one really good tool holder I made. It's the last thing I made. I'd love to show it because it was really cool. But I'll have to run into the other room to do it. But we're all just hanging out here, so why not? I'll go grab it. Everybody asked for more questions, too. especially about the company. Yeah, I love showing stuff off because I've been off the air for months and months now. But I'll be right back. Oh, dead air. Okay, I'm back. So, I want to show you guys this. It's a little unwieldy, but here is the biggest 3D print I've done. So you can see kind of the size of it. It's pretty sizable. So that's all of these little hexagon shapes that I built to hold these tools. So these are like sculpting and modeling tools. So like, knives and dentist tools and whatnot. It's all for sculpting in clay and cleaning up 3D models or like 3D models and just doing cool, like all these tiny little files, all these cool tools. This thing, if you drop this on yourself, it would hurt very badly. But that print by itself, I think it was almost exactly 24 hours. It was like 23 and a half hours for that to print off the printer. And you can see a slightly smaller version here. This was like one of the earlier focus, test versions. And you can kind of see the shape. But this was, of course, modeled in Cinema 4D. And I was using the Voronoi fracture and like taking bites out of models. And then I threw it into the volume and I smoothed out the volume and then printed it all out. This is a special type of plastic called ABS that you can chemically smooth. So if you take acetone vapor, it will melt it. So you just melt it for a little while and it makes it nice and smooth and shiny and gets rid of all the 3D printing lines. So yeah, that's the biggest 3D print that I've done. It's also the last thing I did. I haven't played with the printer too much. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I've been pretty busy for a significant amount of time. And then the laser cut boxes are the other thing I spent a bunch of time on. And there's one on the shelf, but it's up too high in the camera. You can't quite see it. Do, 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 do. Ba, ba, ba. Oops, a video. Yeah, Yadaglo was saying that a still image on the camera flipped of a bunch of the images, a bunch of colors. Well, first of all, I've got my Sony A6000, I think it is. It might be A600, 6000. But I bought this like a year and a half ago, and I used it a ton when I first got it. But then I didn't use it very much, so now I was like, you know what? As long as I'm not using it, I might as well turn to a really fancy webcam. So I've got a normal DSLR sitting on a tripod with a wire plugged into it, and it's feeding out HDMI into an HDMI external video card, converting it into USB to be fed into the computer. So essentially, this webcam is the picture you'd see on the back of the camera, and it just seems like every once in a while there's a frame where it doesn't catch up, and the pattern is presumably, if I click the button. No, it's not going to do it unless I turn it off. But I spent a bunch of time trying to get a good focus and a good angle, and so this is a manual focus, so I have to sit right here and nothing else, because otherwise it kept on like zooming in, zooming out, focusing all over the place. But yeah, Salam. Sorry, too bad it wouldn't be procedural. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Difficult to model that cube. If you're talking about the tin box, yeah, it's rounded and whatnot, but you could totally make that procedurally with a bunch of lofts and rounded rectangles. Um, but if that's I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about as far as rigging. Sphere Factory. First time you've seen somebody make something useful out of a 3D printer. I've been trying to be real useful out of them. On my laser cutter, I was developing these spice holders that hang on the back of the cabinet so that all the spices are on the door instead of, um, on the shelf so they take up less room. um, Joking about the procedural cube. A $50 tier prize. Gumbo, cool. Yeah, yeah. Well, 3D. Well, once again, when it comes to the physical shipping out of things, it takes a lot of time and effort and money. And honestly, you guys are an international audience, which is super cool on the most for the most part. But it does mean if you're shipping out T-shirts, you have to ship internationally, which just automatically becomes insane. Imagine if I sold T-shirts and I had to ship them myself, and there's 50 different addresses, and 30 of them are from different countries all over the world, and I'm going into a UPS store saying I need to ship this to, you know, 40 different countries. Like that's no good for anyone. And even shipping a 3D print, like I have to print and prepare, and like even something like this, like I did like 12 prints to get to this step before I started the big thing, and I probably had 4 failed prints before that one completed perfectly. And then honestly, I didn't show you the side, but one side I melted too much with the chemical, so it got a little bubbly. So that's just things you learn. Um, Oh, okay. Cinemazuka. Actually, I completely agree. Cinemazuka is saying, in the spirit of good luck and fortune, on this episode 0, we should play around with Cinema 4D just for a little bit. And you know what? We got about a half hour. So why don't we shift over to Cinema 4D a little bit? Although there was one more thing I want to ask you guys about, and is just put this in the comments or put this in the Slack channel. But 2 o'clock is the time I always pick for live shows because this is after lunch for me. In the past, we used to do it at 1, which would mean I couldn't eat beforehand, and then I would end up being really hungry. And it's no good doing a live stream when you're hungry. So the point being is this is a very good time for me, but I know there's people who are about to go to bed, people staying up late. There's probably people asleep right now. There might be people it's way too early in the morning for this. So feedback on good times to do live streams would be good, especially if I'm going to be doing that secondary Patreon live stream. For one, if I'm going to be doing that, it would be that's not going to be like directly after that. The 2 hours talking to a camera is surprisingly draining. So I would want to pick a different day for that. But it also wouldn't, it could be at 2 o'clock, but maybe it's well, Friday night's no good. People go out on Friday nights. But yeah, picking a time, and for me, it'd be even kind of cool for it to be in the evening, where it's like, oh, everything's a little bit more chill. Like this stuff is, a little more relaxed. So I don't know. That could be, it could be other times. So I'd like to hear some feedback on there. But in the meantime, why don't we jump on into Cinema 4D? I'll show you guys a little bit of these dynamic setup I was trying to do. But in the meantime, people on YouTube or on Twitch, why don't you pull up a question of some sort? Keep in mind that this is kind of just a fun one. We might not go super deep into anything in particular, but we can definitely try something. And we've got this giraffe. Let me switch the screen over. So we've got this giraffe here, of course. Oh yeah, I didn't test before we do that. I didn't test out. I had another screen view here, which should be. Oh, it's not refreshing very well. This is supposed to show a live stream of the chat going down, but maybe it only continues for new messages that come through from the point that I pop it open. Yeah, so that new message popped in. So if it's not up there all the time, it's not calculating. I'll have to figure it out. I might have to like link that chat to different windows so it's always calculating, and maybe it's like off to the side and not in the window. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, we should be able to show the chat if there's a reason to show the chat. That's another cool view that we have now. Mo giraffes. We need mo giraffes. Yeah, we got mo giraffes. Let's pull this up. Now my microphone wire is a little in the way of my hand. But, and why don't we go ahead and shrink my camera down a little bit. I don't need to be too big in frame. So yeah, okay. So yeah, so that should be the question. We gotta, let's do something with this giraffe. That should be what an episode 0 is about. Is we've got a giraffe here. It's got decent polys. I guess it's pretty triangulated. Let's see how well Cinema untriangulates it. Here's the thing: is like Cinema actually does a pretty good job of untriangulating, but every couple it gets it wrong. Untriangulate. Don't create n-gons, but I always just put a really big angle, and then it tries to do the best. So you see a bunch of these, they're really good job, but then this one here did not. That's a terrible one. So this one should be, I'm gonna hit K for knife, and we can knife that closed. And then honestly, I'd probably just take that and merge it down. Oh man, I haven't done modeling in just enough time where the shortcuts are a little fuzzy. So grab that, hit UZ, grab that, hit UZ. We probably have to grab this one point, kill that off. And then I guess, look at this rogue point. I guess I don't see any reason for those to exist. So ME for the polygon pen tool, and now I can snap that there, snap that there. Honestly, I'm probably breaking the UVs now, so I gotta be careful with what I'm doing. But what should we do with this giraffe? Somebody says we need to dynamically lasso the giraffe. Well, here's a tricky. Well, first of all, an actual real life lasso is a pretty complicated thing. I think you got this fancy knot, and then you put the rope through it. So you'd have to. Probably be pretty tricky to do it like super realistically. Having said that, we could probably make a significantly more simple version. Just by creating a couple loops and feeding stuff through. So, okay, let's do it. I like this idea. First of all, let's go ahead and give this a quick save. So we're going to jump up to, actually, we want the materials to come through. Well, I can't share honestly, I can't share the file at all because I bought this off TurboSquid. So that's more reason to model a giraffe at some point. So, but I still will save it. I'll even save it with the materials. So I'm going to say save with assets, and let's jump up to bum bum bum. Thought I put an episode counter in here, but I guess I didn't. So let's jump into the hard drive, go into wait, oh, I know where it is. Sorry. These are things that we gotta get used to. So we gotta do the live streams, live shows, season 1, episode 0. See, I was prepared. Scene files. And then we say giraffe lasso number 1. Dun dun dun. Okay, so we've got a giraffe. He's pretty low poly. Even the head is not insane. So we need to build a rope rig. First of all, let's see how big the giraffe is. He's actually pretty good size. We'll probably make him bigger because Cinema 4D Dynamics like things that are about the size of a cube. So if we're going to make our dynamic rope, we're not going to use a circle. We're going to use a end side because we can control the number of sides. And I'm just going to T for scale and scale that down a little bit. And that's going to be the size of the lasso. So we'll just scale the giraffe up to meet the rest of it. So why don't we go ahead and add a bunch of points on here. I'm going to go up to 64 and then make it editable. And that seems like a pretty good number of points overall. So what I'm thinking is if we just make a very simple mechanism here to control the lasso, and the lower the poly count, the easier it is going to be to control. So if I make this 3 sides, and I'll just say 5 sides, or 5 ring segments, that way it's very low poly, but it's still a little bit rounded. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it 4 by 5, so at least we get this little angle. Actually, that's making me want to go up another one. If we can kind of angle that, I don't know. Honestly, 6 by 6 is probably a really good number. You know what? I know I said really low poly, but 6 by 6, that's clean, it's not overdone, and there's not going to be that many polygons. So we're going to make a shape like that, and we're going to hit T for scale it way down, and honestly, we want it to be so small it's going to be kind of just the most simple ring, the most simple little section of lasso we could put around it. So we're going to do that, and then we need to move it down to the base here. And let's see what we can do. What I want to do, actually, we're going to have to put a lot more sides on this end side. You see that right there is a single section of string. So we're going to at least double it. So we're up to 128. And you guys know me. I like to keep a backup copy before I make something editable. So we'll make that editable. And we've now made the string editable. I'm going to unclose the spline, but I don't know where it closed or opened. So I'm actually going to select this point. I'm going to say set first point, and now that has become the first point of spline. This is the last point of spline, and they are not connected because I unclosed it. So, having done all that, we need to continue this line. Now you can't just actually I'll tell you the truth with the sketch and the pen tool. I'm not sure if you can draw new points off of a previous one. Okay, that did something. I don't know why I jumped over there though. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we can draw points from continuing on the previous object, which is pretty cool. I'm going to hit undo, and let's go to a side view and see if we can do it from here. So because I have this point selected and I'm on the pen tool, it looks like I can go and start drawing some extra points here. So honestly, we just need a big straight line. So I'm going to, honestly, we probably need pretty dang big. I'm just going to click there. It seems to be getting a little confused. Let's go ahead and zero out on X. So it should be kind of a straight line. and we'll subdivide that a bunch, but that becomes one line. Now, what I would like to do, and then, oh, we definitely should bevel. No, yes, no, yes, no. I don't know. What we want to do is dynamically link this point to the side of the ring. So instead of doing a big complicated knot, we're just going to use this ring as the knot, and we're going to keep the rest of it simple. That way we can start worrying about the fun part, which is actually throwing the lasso. So having said all that, what we're going to do is save it again. And now let's right click on our string, and I'm going to add a Cinema 4D simulation soft body tag. We're going to click on our torus. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add a Cinema 4D simulation rigid body. So that's a rigid body. And let's not try and rotate our camera from this angle. So the way you connect a string, one of these soft body splines, to an object on any kind of object is you need to use a dynamics spring. So we got a spring, and the spring should link the string to the torus. But I don't want to link just the string to the torus. I want a specific point. Now we're going to be changing the point count probably a bunch. So I'm actually going to create a selection. I'm going to select the one point on the end. I'm going to say select set selection. I should make a point selection tag, and let's just call whatever. I'm just going to call it tip. So it's the tip of the rope. And on the spring, I'm going to say that the end side, which we should probably name rope, on the rope, I want the attachment to not be the center of mass, but to be a particular point selection. And the point selection is going to be this point. So I can just drag that in, that becomes it. Now instantly you see we've got a connection. There's a little line being drawn here, a spring being drawn between that point and the center of our torus. Now I don't actually want the center of the torus. I want it to be on this outside corner of the torus. So on the torus, I'm going to, actually not on the torus, but on the spring, in reference to the torus, I'm going to say that I don't want it to be the center of mass, which is the middle, of course. I want it to be on a polygon point. Now it's actually a point, but it's just referred to as a polygon point. It's the point of a polygon. Click on that, and now you see it jump to a point. But all I'm going to do is start clicking through the index, and you're going to see that that line is jumping from point to point to point to point to point. Now, I could look it up, but I'm going to just keep clicking until, boom, you see that it is now connected successfully to the corner right there, and that's what I wanted. Now, because of the scale of the scene, the spring is cartoonishly huge. That's just the visual. We could go to our draw size, and I can say 5, and I see we get a nice reasonably sized visual spring, and that's fine. Now, what I'm going to do, I don't think this has to be attached like freaking glue. It should just be pretty stuck to it. So on the spring, I'm going to tell it to, let's scroll this up a little bit. Tell it to, here's the rest length. Here's the most important thing. Right now, if I say set rest length, you're going to see it's going to set it to 7.25. And that's the current distance between that point and this corner. And that means it's going to try and maintain that distance. We don't actually want it to be that distance. We actually want it to be 0. So I'm going to say 0 and hope it doesn't explode. I'm also going to turn off gravity temporarily. We'll turn it back on, but I'm going to hit Control or Command D, go to Dynamics, and go to Gravity, and I'm going to put this down to 0. Why was that scaled up really big? Maybe it's because I opened this up from like the giraffe file. This is what we started from, so the scales are a little weird and off right now. It's actually worrying me that what we're seeing is not what I'm expecting, because maybe the scene scale is bigger or smaller than I'm expecting, like it's set to inches. I'm not sure. It's a little concerning. So concerning, in fact, that I'm going to select all, copy, open a new file, Command N, and then paste, Command Control V. Do I want to include the absolute paths? No, because I'm immediately going to save it again over the file again. Oop, I did it again. Season 1, Episode 0, scene files, draft line. Draft, we'll just number 2. Cool. So now we're in a new scene file. Hopefully things are more of a default. So you see by copy and pasting in this new scene file that my project scale went back a centimeter. So Cinema is expecting a different size. Also important to note is if I make a cube, you see it's actually smaller. So I just want to go everything back to default instead of whatever the scene file was bringing in. So in fact, we're at the time of 0. Only change the time. Only change dynamics at the time of 0, because that's when they get reset. And I'm just going to T for scale, and scale this all the way down until we're about the size of that cube. Like I said, cinema likes being about the size of a default cube. And we were just introducing random variables in there that there's no reason for us to complicate things like that. Okay, cool. Now, back to where we were. Going into our dynamic settings, I'm going to set our gravity to 0 instead of 1,000 centimeters per second. So now gravity's not going to pull these down. So all we'll see when I hit play, hopefully, is this string try and attach itself to the cylinder. So I'm going to hit 1 frame forward. You see it actually shoots up, which actually might make sense. But I think our spring instantly... Actually, no, let's see what happens. I'm going to hit play. Okay, so you see it's going a little bit nuts. It's interesting. Now the rest length is set to 0, so that's a little... That's actually... Oh, okay, I know what's going on. Our torus shape is currently intersecting the spline traveling through it, but because of the dynamic settings, which are currently set to automatic, this is being treated as a convex shape, and it can't have any concave things, meaning this hole is not being acknowledged. There's actually, I can't remember, there's like a way of viewing the dynamic bodies. We're having some fun here. Let's see if we can go to a mode. And let's try tool. No. Configure modes. No. Project material shader. Project info. One of these, somewhere there's a setting, and I don't know where it is, where you can actually turn on the ability to visibly see the way dynamics are being interpreted. And that'd be a really fun way of showing people how they work. But I'm not specifically remembering where it is, so we'll check that out when I figure it out. Okay, anyway, the dynamics tag, right now the shape is automatic. I'm going to say it's not automatic, it is a moving mesh. So that means it can see the hole. So now if I frame forward, hopefully we're going to see it not go nuts and fly away. Okay, cool. So now we did kind of see it be successful. You see that string is stuck through it, but then this thing started drifting away. So let's go ahead and click on our spring and make sure it still seems to be working. Now, there's a lot of feedback happening where, like, I think that this shape is just trying to naturally move. So we got to change a couple things. First of all, we probably want to go to our spring and go to its stiffness. And I want to add in more stiffness. So let's make it 10 times as strong. And now you see it went a little weird. It's almost like it's forcing it over that distance. The rest length is 0. I'm going to reset the rest length to 0 again. Like, yes, I want it to be 0. Set the rest length. Well, now it's at 2... I guess set to 1 for a second. Let's see what happens at 1. Okay, that's weird. Why is it flinging that over? Now, this rope is already a soft body. The spring is going real nuts throwing it over there, but the spring is not breaking. R Dazzle is saying project settings, dynamic visualization. Project settings... Dynamics, visualization, enable. Yeah, there we go. So now, thank you. I knew it was somewhere. Thank you very much for the link. But so by doing that, you can actually see the way it's interpreting this. So you see it's actually viewing it as triangles. Let's rewind all the way. So you can see it's viewing our shape as triangles. And if we go back here, Command or Control D, Dynamics Visualization, turn it on. Does it only happen once? Okay, you have to hit 1 frame forward before it sees it. That's weird. But if we were to change this back to, just for fun, automatic, do we have to go another frame forward for it to see it? It's flying away. But by turning that on, look at this. Oh, okay, even more interesting. Look at the shape that it's actually showing. So you see there's no hole. It's just kind of this outside triangles, and it's more like this rounded cylinder. And the margins are significantly in. So there's margin settings. So if we were to go to Command D, go to Expert, and we have this collision margin. I wonder if that is, if I put it to 0, rewind 1 frame forward, now you can see that's actually properly matching the object. So it's giving us like this wiggle room where it rounds things out. So it's pretty cool to turn this on and see how it's actually interpreting your object. So anyway, well, we fixed that collision margin. With our very small sizes here, that might actually make a difference, to tell you the truth. But in any case, we do want this to be a moving mesh. Back to our spring, frame forward. It's still shooting over there. That is pretty bizarre, to tell you the truth. I am a little stumped as to why it is doing that. Like it's flinging it way over there. There's no gravity. There's no forces. There are literally only two dynamic objects. So it's acting like the rope is this thing it's colliding with. To tell you the truth, I'm a little stumped on that. Let's just temporarily turn off the rope or the spring and let's see what happens. Well, there's no gravity, so nothing's moving. Let's make a floor just for fun. Move the floor down. And let's also make it dynamic. We can just copy the tag over to see it fall. And then we can turn on some gravity. Gravity of 1000, back to default. Hit play, and now you can see everything's falling. And you can see our cylinder is successfully, very tiny, is successfully traveling down that rope. Well, it was mostly, and then it finally escaped. Anyway, point being, some weird, interesting things are happening. Back to gravity, turn off the gravity, turn on the spring. Let's figure this out, everybody. I would think this would be pretty straightforward, but it's being tricky. So I want to move it over. Now we're instantly setting it to 0, but if we set it to 2, stiffness, and I'm going to crank up our subframes. That's always an important thing. Now when it comes to the ropes, I've actually found with this kind of rope setup, if you go up too high, that can break it as well. But a good happy number has always been about 20 or 25, so we're going to try 25, hit play. Still shooting over there. That is very, very odd. And it seems to explicitly be the spring that's doing it. It's the point selection. I'm going to get rid of this region of influence. Hit play. Oh, okay. Well, that did something. The region of influence is like it travels back through the item, through the different tabs. But you'll see that the cylinder still seems to have escaped the rope, which is a little frustrating as well. Also, the visualization is bugging me. I don't actually want to see it. I just want to know where it was. So look at that. Like, rink, yoink. That's interesting. Let's just try playing around with a couple of settings because yeah, we're getting stumped in a place I thought we might get stumped in a couple places, but I didn't think it'd be already. Now, I guess there's very few points here, but I thought it would actually just see the rope. But something I'm curious about is what if we just subdivide the rope a bunch more? Soft body dynamics run pretty quick on splines as a general rule. Let's subdivide the whole thing again and hit play. Oh, that just disappeared. Oh, also important to note, and I'm glad I immediately checked. I double-click my selection tag, and this is no longer the selection. So I'm going to just override it by having it currently selected, have that point, select, set selection, and that's the new selection. Hit frame forward. Okay, better. Well, you see it was at least kind of stuck there for a second. So let's go back to our rope again. So structural, we pull down. I'm going to pull down shear. I'm going to pull down flexion. And let's try again. Still pulls it up and through. I'm going to go ahead and crank up our steps per frame a bunch more just to see if it... Oh, that is so weird. You have one, Cinemazuka is saying you have 1 point at the top near the torus and then nothing for a while. Subdivide bottom portions of the rope. That's a fair point where this section of rope is not subdivided very much, but I did not think that that would be a variable here. So I am going to subdivide it. Let's just see if that's a variable. I'm going to subdivide it. The shortcut is US, so we're going to do a bunch of times US, 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 US. Oop, we're not grabbing both. Okay, I'm going to grab this point as well. Now we hit US, 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 US. And every time we're doubling it, we're cutting it in half. So if we do one more US, then now we're almost exactly the same type of subdivisions. So if that breaks it, then I wouldn't be surprised. And I was just kind of derping on that part. But it's still, look, it's still, I hit play again, and it still escaped. It still jumped out a little bit. Like, how is it just jiggling itself out of there? I'm going to delete this point, and let's make sure that, oh, yeah, this is once again not the selected point. I thought that deleting that point or setting it through a selection tag would force it to work, but it's not. I'm just going to change it. That spring, we're going to set that also to be the polygon point. And here's actually a cool thing. You'll see that's trying to connect the point that we have all the way to the first point. But if we set the index, we could start going up and up and up, and we're going to go way up. And you can see as I go up, it's traveling from point to point to point to point to point, all the way around the radius. But instead of going to whatever the final point number is, we could just say -1. So that's going to jump to the last point. So boom, instant connection there, and it should automatically adapt. So now let's go ahead and do a frame forward. Oh, off point mode. Frame forward, frame forward. Okay, no, frame forward. What did I do now? Why is it not moving at all? Unless it's working. Okay, well, it didn't pop anywhere. It's not moving. It, in theory, should be. So let's put the rest length to 0. Let's see if we get... Hey, we got movement, and it's actually caught. Look, finally, it's kind of caught on the rope. It's sort of intersected, but it is working. So, having said that, why don't we try jumping over here? Now, something I've been experimenting with a little bit now, because I still don't have a great intuition for it, is this maximum solver iterations per step. So we're going to try increasing that to 55 as well. And let's just see if we visually get a difference. Okay. Oh, I'm actually not visually seeing a difference. So if it doesn't help, then we assume it hurts and we get rid of it. Let's give the rope a little bit of thickness. So we're going to go to the rope, and instead of it just being the line, we're going to go to use a margin. And right now the margin should be pretty dang small. In fact, I'm going to make a sphere here. I'm going to hit E for move. I'm going to hit Shift C, which is just a shortcut for turning on point snapping. And now as I move, if I go near a point anywhere, it's going to snap. So if I snap, boom, right there, then I have now perfectly snapped to that point, so I could scale a sphere down. And that is about the thickness I want the rope to be. I'm going to turn off snapping before I forget. But now it's really easy for me to look at that and see that our radius is 0.7. And now if I go and click on our rope, I can set our margin. I don't know if the margin is the total length or half the length. So we'll just try that and see if it gives us anything. Ooh, better already. Look at that. So now you can see that it's actually not pulling through. So it seemed like we did need to subdivide the points more. We got rid of the collision margin. We've got lots of subdivisions frame-wise. So that actually seems to be working now. So actually, yeah, good start. So I wonder if we can move on almost immediately to, let's do some tests. Let's make another torus. In fact, why don't we just take the torus we have because it's nice and low poly. I can hit rewind all the way, T for scale, and scale it way up. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees, and let's move it up into the air. And we're just going to see if this successfully catches the rope. So I'm going to make this a static mesh. So that means it's not moving. And when I hit play, it shouldn't fall. Of course, I have to turn gravity back on. So Command D, General, Gravity, 1000. Hit play. And now the rope you see is successfully falling. Boom. Oh, it's exploding. Okay, so now the rope is starting to explode. That is fine because we really messed with the rope settings in ways that we probably shouldn't have. So in our soft body, we want the structure to be pretty dang strong. But the shear, honestly, the shear and the flexion is fine. Those just make it so that the splines can easily bend, but I don't want the spline to stretch. Also, we have damping. If you haven't played with damping, I've got tutorials about it, but you might want to look up what damping does. Because, well, but damping can often have more of an effect than the actual primary parameter. So I'm going to give this a whole bunch of damping. Essentially what this is saying is I'm going to put a dampening of 99, 99, and 99. And all this is saying is go ahead and bend all you want, but lose your energy quickly. So if you start bending, stop bending unless something tells you to bend some more. So we're just draining the energy out from those systems very quickly. So hopefully if we play that, we're going to get... Okay, I was going to say, hopefully we get less falling away, but we're going to go into this torus. We're just going to give it a brand new dynamics tag and give it a collider body, and we're going to make sure that it is the shape of a static mesh. Let's hit play, and hopefully that works better. No, it's still successfully escaping straight through. That's a little disappointing because we've got some pretty high settings right now. I'm going to rotate that a little bit so we get more of this angle. Maybe that corner was, yeah, okay. The corner was definitely tripping it up. It could just pass through that side. But you'll see Ooh. You'll see that our spline is getting really long. You see how this is a straight line? That is implying that that one point is stretching that much. And now that's worrying because in our soft body, I've already said the structure should be 100. That's pretty strong for a structure. So we're going to go up to 1,000 and hit play. And better, but oh, it's escaped right through. That is, that is interesting. I don't feel like it should be escaping anywhere near as easy as it is. I'm going to give this a few extra subdivisions. Hopefully that helps with that bit. Hit play. I just want to see if it escapes. Now, is he pulling down, pulling down, pulling down? It didn't escape. All we did was give it some more points. But oh, you see, it gets to where these polygons kind of collide, and it just slides right off of it. That is a little freaky. Let's add in a few extra points. Yeah, that's weird. When it touches where one polygon touches another polygon, it's just like, see ya, and slips away. Having said all that, I wonder if the collision margin, like that's freaking me out a little bit that that's happening, but I wonder if the collision margin that we got rid of is a variable on that. I'm just going to see by putting that back up to 1 if that changes it. Really didn't. Really didn't, honestly. Let's see. Yadaglow is saying Shift C is also a nice tip. I mean, yeah, I don't think I did that yet. But if you hit Shift C, you can just type in whatever command you want. But I tend not to do that because it's quicker to learn the primary shortcuts. But regardless of any of that, why is this escaping? Look, it's fine. It's fine. But then it gets to where these two touch. Oh, wait, well, this time it decided not to escape. Go figure. But I'm also feeling like that's quite stretchy. Like, look how far that's stretching. And then look at it kind of spring back upward. Like, that springing back upward implies that it's stretched. And we are telling this thing that it is not stretchy. I mean, we can always add some stiffness, but stiffness is kind of a mallet. It's like a giant hammer to the overall effect, where it's constantly, you see, it's going to try and maintain this big fat round shape and even yank the rest of it down. Man, this is not. This rope is just straight up not cooperating, and we're doing some things with it that I feel are pretty straightforward. Yes, Refractory is saying that we might have too many points on the rope, and that I agree that we might. But if we were going to have the rope trying to like dynamically slip through this ring, was the plan. We're going to put like a weight on the end and throw the lasso, and then the rope could tighten. You know, that's what we want. We want the lasso to be big, get thrown, and then tighten through the ring. And it just doesn't seem to want to do that. Now, since it's just kind of dead ending a little bit with what we're trying to do, let's go ahead and do some brute force tactics. Maybe there are too many points. I'm going to select all the points, and let's go ahead and right click and go to, is it here? Cross section lineup. Oh, here, round. There's a tool called round. Not something we use too often because I don't like the way it works in general. But if we click and we drag, we will actually start remapping the way the points are applied. And let's go to the final count we want, and 42 seemed pretty good. And I'm going to undo and then apply 42 directly, and it's going to give us the best curvature. And hopefully you can kind of see that what was happening is if we start, actually this tool's, here's why I don't use the tool. If we start out with a really low number, let's say like 5, I'm going to click and start dragging, and you're going to see that drop the resolution down to 5. And as I drag up and up and up higher, it's not referring back to the original spline, it's referring to the current state of the spline. So then when you drag up to a state that you want, you're like, okay, well that's the subdivision I want, but now I have to undo and then reapply the first shape. That way it actually maintains it. It's a little weird. 41 actually ended up being better because now the cylinder, or this torus, is in a better position. So let's go ahead and grab our torus. We're going to also scale that up. Let's just make everything bigger and beefier so that this might work better. So we're going to make that a little beefier. We're going to pull it down. Hopefully that still snaps to the point. So let's hit play. Okay, a little explodey, but let's see. Explode! Oh, it's going quite nuts. Now, this, oh, interesting. The rope. Oh, interesting. Look, the tool is not in there. The rope is not in there. I wonder if when we remapped it, if it started treating it like a new object. But that's really interesting. I didn't know it did that. Okay, cool. Now it's not doing it. Now we hit play. It's looping around. It's still got some stiffness on there. So I would want to get rid of that. But okay, it's already automatically working way better. But I mean, what if we wanted that many points? That's the frustrating part. Is getting rid of a bunch of the point count definitely helped. It's also running quicker. It's not escaping. Everything about it seems better. But like, why didn't that work? But luckily, this rope is not escaping. I think because we made everything bigger, we can also go into our rope and make our margin bigger. So I'm going to make this, I don't know, let's try 2, which might be too big. Oh, man. Well, 2 worked pretty well. And the weight of this rope overall was yanking it tight all by itself. And you see it's immediately kind of freaking out because it got so tight that it didn't know how to handle it. So we'd actually kind of want to slow that down. I wonder if we could... I don't think changing the mass is going to change anything. I'm going to change the world density to 0.1 on the mass of the rope. But I don't think that's actually going to... Because it's relative to itself, I don't think that actually it did. It is a completely different result, but not necessarily better. Okay, it didn't help, so we're going to undo. But yeah, I mean, look, I mean, the lasso concept is working. Like it is grabbing and then getting the weight of the rope is pulling it tight and then wrapping around. So we can go ahead and visualize because it's sort of working now. Let's go ahead and make a sweep. Let's go ahead and make an end side. Let's go ahead and feed the end side into the sweep. Feed the rope into the sweep. And hit T for scale on the rope. Or actually the end side, we should be able to just type in radius 2. And that should be accurate, hopefully. Yeah, it seems to be accurate. So you can see it is actually working. We actually get this rope and it's actually wrapping around and it tightens. And actually that time it did behave itself. And then, yeah, it's automatically tightening the lasso. Now, I'm not surprised that this is not sticking too well. That's the spring. So we can go ahead and, I'm going to actually give it a quick save because it's actually kind of working right now. Thanks for the suggestion, Sphere Factory, for dropping the point count. But, like, just logically, that doesn't follow for me, but it clearly worked. Anyway, going back to the spring, we now have a rest length of 0, so it's trying to maintain that distance. To be perfectly honest, I would even kind of want to give it a little bit of distance so it doesn't have to be stuck to it. I'm going to go to damping and suck the energy out from the system really quickly. And let's just see if that changes anything. I mean, hopefully it's a little bit better. Arbitrarily, I mean, that didn't change this system at all, but it's still being a little twitchy on it. That should have virtually no effect on this. It's interesting that it's having... It just seems like some playbacks we get a big change, some we don't. In fact, I'm just going to undo, which should mean nothing changed. And, okay, that works. And now, let's try adding damping. And that's making it go twitchy. So, weird. Let's not go 99. We'll try 55. And, nope, that's enough to freak it out. Okay, well, the next thing I was going to say is we can try stiffness, which I actually thought had better odds of working, and you can see, yeah, now there's this really strict connection between these, but it's kind of, that last point gets forced over to a large degree, and you see it gets, we're getting this weird sharp angle on it where it's like getting really linked. Now we might be able to help it a little bit by increasing the influence. And it's just like 2%. So is that 2% of the length? Is it 2% of a distance? Is it... I just don't know what that number means. I'm just going to keep on increasing it until we get some sort of visual difference. Well, clearly that wasn't good. Well, anyway, the stiffness 100 seems like a lot, and it's like stuck to it like glue, which is more than I wanted. So why don't we go ahead and split the difference? Let's try 50. Now we get some angle, but you see it's still keeping it pretty tight, although it's still freaking out a little bit and traveling up the rope. Weird. I mean, yeah, we're just getting some inconsistencies. I am also going to increase the margin, just because I think the fatter it is, the more likely it is to dynamically be coherent. Yadaglow is asking a question, which is back in the reference, which was when I was talking about the snapping, I said something about Shift C. I didn't say something about Shift C. I said something about Shift S. Shift S is a shortcut for snap. Also the letter P. Maybe I said the letter C, but Shift S is snap, and hit Shift S and you'll turn snapping back off again. It's the same as hitting the letter P and it'll pop open the snapping menu. But you can see right there, enable snap, Shift C. So that's all I was doing there. Okay, so once again, at this point, it's a little frustrating because we're putting in very clean answers, but we're getting kind of arbitrary results. I just made the rope a lot fatter, and it seems to make it happier. Like it's happier with a fatter rope. And so with the fatter rope, I just like visually seeing it be the same. So we told the collision margin on the rope that it was allowed to go up to 4. So that makes me want to go to the radius of our rope and also make it 4. So that's what's actually calculating now, which just seems to be working better overall. Blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, we do have a lasso, a basic kind of, well, just kind of a hook. It's not like, well, a lasso is just the hook would also be made out of rope. Theoretically, we could do it, but with all the trouble it's giving us with subdivisions, I'm not confident in it actually being able to go through and lock on. Now, having done what we've got here, well, we can talk about, we're going to start running over time here. But having done everything we just did, something I would love to mention before we do any physics on it would be, we're kind of getting this, the way this rope is subdividing, but what we could do is change this rope's subdivision type. Well, right now the type is linear, but if we set this to something like cubic, Akima, or B-spline, B-spline's the smoothest. If I turn on B-spline and we make sure that the subdivisions are something like, let's say natural, and we'll just say 1. So all this is doing is giving 1 extra subdivision per, but it's going to start smoothing them all out. But those smoothing, these extra smoothed out sections are not calculated in subdivision. It's not calculated in the dynamics, rather. It is just calculated after the fact. So we can add in these extra points, and it's just going to try and... okay, I didn't think that they were calculating it, but now it's acting like it is. Because look, that's almost a completely different result there. All right, well, strike that, reverse it. Changing the subdivisions here does change the way it's calculating, but we've now added more points to the spline, but it's still working, and in fact, it's giving us a better tether. Like, I even like this looseness in the way the rope's flapping around. It's acting more like a rope, so I'm fine with that. Sorry for misinformation there. I thought that this didn't affect it, but what I was going to say is I thought there's a good chance that that wouldn't work, and if that didn't work, I was going to say that what we can do is create something like a Mo-spline. Actually, this is something that I only found out recently, is you can use a Mo-spline as a way of remapping splines. So if we make a Mo-spline, I could say the Mo-spline should reference a spline, and the spline should be this rope. And if we hide that for a second, you can now see that we have a Mo-spline that is completely mimicking what the other one was doing. And if we put this back to being linear, then it shouldn't have, and let's put that to none. So you see there's no subdivisions. I'm not sure, but on the Mo-spline, we could start changing the way it interprets it, where we could start doing even steps and rounding that out more that way. And in addition to that, we could probably also use a tracer object and trace onto the points of it and subdivide it that way. But we don't need to do any of that because it did seem to like this intermediate points, setting that to natural, giving us these extra ones. Those are dynamically calculating. I just didn't think they did, but that's cool. I mean, that's actually useful because that means we can work from a lower point count, but still get the benefits of the higher point count calculation. So yeah, that's actually working quite well. So we've got the basics of that lasso. Now, as far as the way a cowboy actually whips a lasso around and throws it, hang on. Losing my voice a little bit. I'm out of practice. As far as the way a rope actually loops around, I think it turns into... I've actually never thought about it before, but I think it's actually like some counter physics. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I never understood the physics of a rope, and just thinking about it right now, I think it's popped into my head. So I'm going to change the screen over. And now I'm not sitting tall enough. When you start whipping a lasso around, the only way it could possibly go in a circle is if the weight is kind of centered over the center point. So the weight of the circle plus the rope leading to it needs to be offset from the center point enough so that as you twirl around, it's offset from that position. Now, I do not in any way think we're going to be able to dynamically do that. Like honestly, like it's one of those things where when when somebody's actually doing a lasso trick, like you're getting so much force feedback in your hand for like how to do it. I mean, just imagine taking a 3D character and trying to make them dynamically spin a hula hoop. Like that would be almost impossible to do dynamically. You could um, um, yeah, you could spin it, but you couldn't dynamically do it because you don't have that force feedback. So as far as actually like spinning this around, I don't think that's something we could even attempt to do. I mean, it'd be fun as an activity, but it wouldn't give us any reasonable result. It would not be controllable. So at that point, you would be more faking it and then transitioning to a dynamic rope at a certain moment when it can go. Um, And that kind of thing, actually, I don't even think that kind of thing is that hard. And we're running out of time to continue here. Although I'm quite happy with the lasso we end up with here. The um, the I mean, we can, yeah, we could. Let me think. Well, just for fun, why don't we pull the giraffe up and then actually at least let this fall over the giraffe? I think it's low poly enough where this should be fine. So let's just go ahead and make our giraffe and pull it down, and we can tilt our entire rope over. Make sure we make the changes at the time of 0. So let's go ahead and do this. And I think I made the giraffe a little big. Shrink him down. Down you go, little buddy. Let's check our normals, make sure they're not inverted. They are not. Our material, oh, it is there. Um, reload image. Oh, it's saying it should be there. Why are we not seeing it on the giraffe? Let's turn on. Oh, textures is on. Oh, that's weird. Why is it just not applied? Texture giraffe. Why is? Oh, man, what am I missing? Look, textures are turned on. Oh, forgot to switch the screen. Sorry. Um, Thank you for the message. Okay. Anyway, we got the giraffe. Anyway, what am I missing here? Like, I've got the giraffe. I've got the giraffe material. He's got a color channel. The color channel is successfully there. I can say reload, and it's like, oh no, the material is there indeed. And then if I go and I apply it to the giraffe, it's not showing up. And if I go to display mode, I do have textures turned on. What am I possibly missing on that? Render? I mean, if I render, it's there. Why is it not showing up in the viewport? Why? Why, everybody? Someone tell me why. Do, 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 do. It's not inverted. It's not anything. I don't know. That's a weird one. Um, so yeah, not sure what to do about that. Why it's not showing up. So we're just gonna have this. We're just gonna whiten up the giraffe. Boom. Um, yeah, I did. I deleted the material off entirely and then apply it again, and it's coming in black. And well, now I turned it. Oh, yeah, and the color channel is turned on. I mean, unless there's like not a default light, is it coming in black? So let's put in the luminous channel. Oh, okay. So in R20, there's no default light anymore? Whatever. He's a luminant giraffe now. Okay, whatever. That's fine. And let's make a nice white, or let's make at least a slightly tan tinted rope here. Throw that on the rope. And, oh, the cylinder moved. Or rather, didn't move with our rope. That's my bad. Let's just try the snap trick again. I hit Shift C. Snap is on. Snap to that point. Nope. Oh, whatever. That's close enough. R for rotate. Spin it a little bit. Spin it. We just need the loop to be there. So I think it's good enough. Okay, cool. So let's make the giraffe a dynamic. So I'm going to right click on him. We'll just add a brand new. We also need a name for the giraffe, everybody. I mean, it could be, it's a Mo giraffe. It's the Mo giraffe, but it needs a name. Like you know, wasn't the wasn't the Toy Story giraffe named Jerry? So it can't be Jerry. But it's it's like Martin the Mograph giraffe. Oh, that's pretty good. But maybe not Martin. I don't like Martin. But the Mograph giraffe is pretty good. What was I doing? Oh, I get distracted with draft names. I'm going to add a Cinema 4D simulation collider body. It's not automatic. It's a static mesh because it's not moving yet. And we hit play, and oh god, it's struggling. It's just kind of dragging itself over the giraffe. Look at it, like blah 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 blah. Okay, so we're going to try subdividing our giraffe. We're going to put it into a subdivision surface, and let's collide with that. It's going to presumably take longer. Static mesh. That's weird. It's almost feels like it's fully ignoring it. You know what? We're going to do an old when in doubt, use a connect object. So I'm going to put the entire giraffe into the connect, hit the letter C just for a weld. Now it's a completely new welded down object. Don't actually think that's going to do anything, but you know what? It's a safe thing to try. You see the rope does seem to sort of react, but it still is just straight up passing through it, which to me feels like it's inverted normals, but it doesn't seem like it is. Yeah, you are. There's inverted, and then we hit play. Now it just falls right through. You are. And now it's not. Come on, Mo Giraffe. Static mesh, deformed object, blah, 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 blah. Use Lasso. Let's turn on the margin. Let's use a size increment. Now I'm just clicking buttons. Look at it, just passing right through the giraffe. Like this giraffe cannot be captured. Its heart is too wild, and it wants to be free. I'm gonna turn it into a moving mesh. Look at that. It's almost fully ignoring it. That is so weird. Man, these dynamic. Here I am about to be working on a whole dynamic series, and then all the dynamics are just behaving strangely. Somebody's saying that maybe we should inherit the tag, um, but but when this subdivision surface is completely taking over this piece of geometry, so it's as if this doesn't exist anymore. And just to prove it to you, let's set this to 2, and I'm just going to make that editable. So literally, this is the only mesh. And let's hit play and see exactly the same thing. So that the inherit is a non-variable here. Don't worry about self-collisions. Don't worry about deformed. I don't know what any of that means. And passing right through. And we're already on all these steps per frame. I'm going to put a collision margin on just because that's not a variable I play with too much. Well, okay, turning on a little collision margin actually is seemingly having some sort of an effect here where it's, I mean, it changes the way it views the mesh. So it's doing something, but still not great, to tell you the truth. So I'll put back to the default of 1, but, and then we have a size increment. Honestly, size increment's another thing that I'm just not terribly familiar with. These are all settings I need to memorize what they do. Can you do a negative size increment? You can. I don't think that actually means anything. Certainly not. It just falls right through then. And the margins are dangerous because the bigger you make the margin, the slower it calculates. Oh, but that actually, it was working so well for a second there. Like, see, for a second, it's like getting there and then tightening. So, like, up until this point, like, we've got, it's adorable. Da-da-da. Turn on SSAO, get a little shadow on there. That's adorable. He's like he's wearing a tie. But then you play just for a few more frames and it slips right through. So, I mean, the settings we're changing here are like so almost arbitrary. Like, so, and you see here as I increase the margin, it's essentially expanding his skin. So it's like his skin is getting fatter. So it's pushing him away. But the way the dynamics are seemingly behaving is things can just escape through where like polygon transitions happen. And actually, it's working worse with this bigger margin than it did with 5. So 5 was working better than 10, but 10 and 5 are working better than 0. Keep slipping through the polygon transitions. Yep. Oh, see, yeah, Burns, you're right. If we had the Hulk giraffe, then it would definitely be wrapping around. It wouldn't, it can escape through the skinny neck, but there's no way it can escape through a big old Hulk giraffe neck. I'm going to try sliding it up his neck a little bit because why not? We're just at that. We're just at that point where we're just moving things around. Oh man, I shouldn't have made that a child of a dynamic object, and then hit play. Herp. See that? Oh, that one was working okay. It really doesn't like the back of his neck here. It's pretty interesting. Like this little I mean, granted, this is a weird little bit of mesh here. But even if we, well, I mean, like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and triangulate it. So like, okay, now we got triangles everywhere. But MoGraph already automatically triangulates it. Like the way it calculates is already triangles. So I try. Okay, explain that one to me. Oh, I guess I turned the dynamics on or the subdivisions off. But now he's all triangles, and then boom, slips right through. And then he's all triangles. Let's pull this off onto the rest of the body. It's a low poly object. You'd think that would work better. But nope, slipping right through. And this is with 55 subdivisions. So, yeah, pretty weird. Well, I mean, it's something to re-explore. I'm intrigued, and I mean, it's more stuff I want to learn, so I will continue to explore that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I think we're gonna have to wrap this up. We're already 20 minutes over. I'm gonna jump back in the chat, although I think I was checking it out as you guys were going. Let's see, did anybody come up with Jeffrey? Oh yeah, it was Jeffrey the Giraffe. I think for Toys R Us. Yeah, slipping through the polygon transitions. It's even the kind of thing where it's almost like I want to like open this up in R19 and see if R19 was viewing it better because it's not behaving the way my brain is telling me it should be behaving. So that's a little weird, but it should be interesting. In any case, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out in episode 0 of the Rocket Lasso live streams. It was really fun. It was really fun catching up with you guys and talking about stuff and getting some feedback from you. Once again, make sure maybe let's put the questions about this kind of stuff in the live channel for now as we figure out these details, and then it should all get locked in pretty quickly. I'm gonna have to look into the Facebook streaming thing. If you guys see the stream popping up and disappearing and whatnot, I might be trying to test things. In fact, what I should probably be doing is you guys are still seeing everything, I think. What we should probably do is there any, oh, actually that's an interesting question. Sean is saying, is there any weird geometry on the inside that's messing with it? It's a fine question. Let's find out. Let's skin this giraffe. I'm going to grab a polygon on the outside and hit delete. Well, all of them disappeared. That's not to say there isn't potentially geometry inside of it. So let's go inside the giraffe. We're going to go in through the mouth. So here we go. Inside the giraffe. Okay, it's looking pretty clean and hollow in here. Okay, here we go. Going down. Oop, oop. Almost escaped. Okay, we are now inside the giraffe. We are traveling down the neck. Okay, we are now entering the chest cavity. And we're going to have a look around from the inside. Looks pretty clean to me. Yep. Oh, I didn't switch the screen again. Dang it. Dang it. That was fun. You guys didn't even get to see it. We were traveling down through a giraffe. Inside the giraffe. Inside the giraffe's throat. Down the giraffe's esophagus. Down into the chest. And then we look around. But honestly, it's looking pretty clean in here. I'm not seeing any funky geometry that would explain it. And I even put the whole thing in a connect object, so that means all these polygons are correctly connected. Like that this is all connected to its neighbors. So it's weird stuff. I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit more. Uh, there was a recent service pack. I will make sure it's up to date. I think it is up to date. I'll check for the updates though, but I don't think it's going to have any. But I'll double check it. Good news is on this computer we have. Actually, I'm still working on the X particles. I have a temporary copy of X particles on here, but not something we can trust. There are no updates for me. I'm up to date. But and I mean, this was a clean restart right when I started the live stream. Anyway, there's stuff to look into. The But I'm curious. I'm curious. I'll look into it. There's some weird lumps on there. Maybe it just needs new topography on it. Maybe, I mean, I don't often bring models in from Turbo Squid, so it was an OBJ. So maybe there's weird things in there. We did copy paste it to a new file. I would hope it would work, but we just got to find out. There's other options we have too. I mean, especially with the throat and everything, we could do we could like shrink wrap it with like a new mesh that would be really clean, and that might work really well. Um, Oh, you're saying, well, somebody said, Salam is saying that it looked like mine was, I'm on 3.6, but he's saying there's a 5.7, so there's an update I'm missing. Huh, okay, well, I will take a look at that. I'm adding it to the list. Um, Update C4D R20. Okay. Okay. Then one more thing to do. Maybe there was a Dynamics bug. Maybe not. I'd be curious to open up an R19, but we're not going to do that right now. Thanks everybody so much. We're gonna have it all set up better. We are officially stopping this stream proper. But if there's somebody around in the chat who could stick around and help me test Facebook and see if we can get the Facebook showing up in the stream. And for everybody else, if you see it message you and be like, oh, it's live. Oh, it's not live. It's live again. It's just me trying to get the Facebook stream to be up. So thank you everybody who stuck around here. Next week we should be kind of on a regular episode kind of schedule. So start getting your questions. We gotta have a good first episode. So come up with some really good questions, some interesting things that well. So, is there anybody still around who might be able to give me a hand? If not, it's cool. I'll give the giraffe a save and then close down our broken version of R20. Should be good. I'll get the Patreon stuff up and then we'll start transitioning the Slack channel over. Oh, Facebook is still down. So Facebook itself is a little bit wonky. Yadaglow is saying Facebook itself is not behaving right now, so might not be our fault. So that'll be interesting. But everything seemed to work pretty well. I'm curious how the Google stream looked. In fact, I am myself going to jump over to the Google. Actually, there's a couple things I'm going to do. I'm still here. I'm going to click the. Let me show you. So here is the actual interface that I'm using. Okay, don't live screen. So here's the actual interface I'm using. You're going to see a bunch of echoing here, but there's two different buttons. There's the microphone volume, and then there's the system volume, or for the speakers. And so what happens is if I were to play a video right now, it's going to go through the live stream, I think, and then feed back through the system again and again and again. So what happened before when the audio broke, when we first started the stream, was I clicked this button and it seemed to kill it. I want to see if that happens. We need to confirm this so that when we're doing a stream, a more real stream, that we understand the mechanism. So I'm going to turn my volume on. A more real stream that it's way too loud over there. Okay, so I can now hear myself over there. I'm going to keep continuously talking so that I'm going to click this button, and there's a very good chance that my audio will disappear. So I'm going to try and bring it back again as well. So I'm going to click it right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on again, and I'm talking, so we're going to say 4, 5, 6, and see if the audio comes back on. Okay, so that button currently has to be on for the audio, otherwise it's turning off entirely, which is really strange, because if I turn off the microphone, I'm now turning off the microphone, so I'm going to say 7, 8, 9, and let's see if that comes through, and if the microphone, so I hit it. Okay, now that's super weird, because I turned off the microphone. I just turned off the microphone button, and you see that it kept on going. So there's definitely a little bit of weirdness going on here. And then there's a little where I have, there's a little where I have that. Let's say somebody gives me a link to a YouTube video and we watch it, and then the audio comes through, and there might be a feedback loop where it comes through and then projects and then comes back through and projects, and it'll just keep on repeating. And the only thing I could do to stop it then would be to stop the audio for a little bit, wait for the loop to end, and turn it back on again. So I'm trying to think of what exactly would happen. Is it echoing now? There would be an echo, but is it currently echoing? I'm going to turn it on and see if there's an echo. Oh, so I don't know if it's actually echoing, but yeah, there would be. Okay, it's not echoing. So yeah, that is a mystery. And you'll see here, I don't want to mute it, but if I click on the settings, the system sound is the default speakers. The microphone is actually, that is not the microphone. The microphone is the podcaster, which is weird. I'm gonna hit apply. Okay. Let's see if that's okay. So now I put that. I'm getting a microphone symbol now. So now there's an echo. I can hear the echo. Okay, I'm turning off the computer audio. Okay, I've turned off the system sound. And it's back. Okay, testing. I'm seeing if there's an echo. I'm going to talk a little bit extra loud. Echo, echo. Okay, that's behaving the way I was expecting it to. Okay, cool. So now you see that I have a microphone symbol turned on. I've turned off audio from the computer. So I've turned off audio from the computer. That seems to be working the way I expected and the way I wanted to. Also, when I changed it, it seemed to work. Although I got to keep in mind that I need to possibly click on this little gear and make sure that the microphone is coming in as the podcaster microphone. Learn how to use silence detection. No, that's not what I want. I just want to tell me if it's broken. But yeah, turning that off is fine. But otherwise, it is getting a feedback loop where the microphone is coming in as computer audio and then outputting as it as well. So I wanted to say that we need to figure that out. But literally, the only way to figure it out is with us doing this already live streaming. So for anybody who's still in the chat, and I appreciate it still, I'm going to... what is the best way to do this? Because I would like for there to be computer audio, but where is the computer audio coming in right now? Do I have the live stream open in a tab here somewhere? I've got Rocket Lasso here, but this is muted, so no, that audio is not feedbacking from there. So I'm going to go ahead and close that tab. And then here's Rocket Lasso, that's fine. Here's the Facebook page, but that shouldn't be streaming. I am on YouTube, but this is definitely not the page that it would be playing on. But regardless, I'll close that. I do have, oh no, Twitch is here, and that's also on mute, although I shouldn't have had Twitch open so many times. So we've got the, that's all fine. So, okay, literally, well, okay, that's all that. I guess I should make sure that it's muted on, I'm also, I use Firefox. I'm using Firefox for all these business things, but I also have my own personal Chrome tabs open on a different window. And I'm making sure that none of those are outputting any kind of audio, which they don't seem to be. So if you guys see what my little conundrum here is, and here we've got this back up again. You can see the entire interface. Oop, I don't want it full screen though. Go away full screen. I want, when I need to, let's say we're watching something cool, or let's say I put together a cool video and I want you guys to hear the audio. If I turn this button on right now, I feel like it's going to instantly feedback loop. So what it's telling me is the microphone is feeding into the system, and then this is outputting system. I just want to see if it's continuing to echo right now with closing all the windows. So expect a possible echo right now. Turning it on. And I'm talking, so say 1, 2, 3 is the time where there's an echo. And I'm going. Okay. The echo is back. And the echo, now I turned off the system audio again, so that should go away. So all we have is the microphone. So if we go to settings, the microphone is the microphone. The speaker sound, audio preview. I don't know what audio preview is. What is audio preview? Audio preview is used to monitor the final audio output from the presentation selected through the output device. I mean, that's cool. I guess this would be like fed through headphones. So that would probably just be my speakers. So I'd say, yeah, I do that. You cannot use device selected in sound system as the audio preview. So sound system, that's really weird. So now the audio preview is that. Okay, well, I just want to see, first of all, if I put my headphones on, is it giving me audio? I'm testing now, talking. No, there's no audio currently going through, but also I can hit apply. And then, oh, okay, now I am hearing myself. So I'm hearing what's going. It's really weird to talk when you're hearing yourself in your ears. I'm going to turn on the system audio. Testing system audio. Oh, now it's all looping. Don't want that. Oh, good. Oh, jeez. Digital output. Okay, audio preview, digital output. Apply. Okay, I am now not hearing myself. I'm going to turn on that audio. But without that looping, I'm going to test over here. One, two, three. Are we getting an echo? Yep. Okay, once again, if I have the system audio on, it's looping, so that didn't help. Pro Tools, how is my Windows skills so far? I mean, fine. I mean, there's a lot of things in Windows that are really goofy. The main thing that bugs me about Windows is that there's like two different control panels. There's like the control panel like you get to through one menu and a control panel you get through the secret menu. And the two are inextricably interlinked, but also have different settings in it. So that's a little frustrating. So let's see. I don't want any audio preview, and I want the system sound to be none. So hit apply. Okay. And now if I turn this off again, I'm going to do another 1, 2, 3 count and see if there's echoing. So we'll turn this on, and then I'm going to say, okay, 1, 2, 3, let's see if there's echo. Testing. Yeah, wow, okay. No matter what I do, if I turn on system sound, you're hearing an echo. I'm also hearing the echo. But like, even look what I got here. It's like, okay, I'm inputting a microphone. Cool. Unless that like doesn't have to be in here, but I figured there would have to be a microphone in here. I'll try deleting it. So let's remove. And then the microphone symbol is still there. So maybe I don't need that microphone. Maybe the microphone just automatically is selected here. So that's not actually a specific capture device. It's just something we import here. So that by itself is fine. Okay, I'll do that. Without this microphone being here, I'm going to see if this changed anything. I kind of doubt it, but let's go ahead and turn this on and once again do another check to see if there is a echo. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's not an echo. Interesting. Okay, no echo. System sound is turned on. Okay. Maybe having the microphone in there was the problem. Let's see. Yadaglow has a video for me to click and test sound. I imagine it's something. Okay, we got an IBM supply chain. And I want to see if this audio goes through to you guys. It didn't. Okay, the audio didn't go through to you guys. I can hear it, but it's not going out. So the system sound here is turned on, but if I go to the settings, the system sound is set to none. So let's go ahead and set it to the system sound will be, I think, speakers. I could do default speakers, but I'm going to say speakers. Apply. Hit OK. And now let's see if we get echo. So, okay, testing. 1, 2, 3, echo. Testing. 1, 2, 3, echo. Okay, it seems okay. Now, let's see if the video is going to play sound.
It's Charles, and I run this supply chain lab.
Okay, let's see if that does it. Oh, look at that. Okay, cool. So that audio came through. We're not getting echo. You guys can hear stuff, and we are not repeating. So no microphone. And then, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a screenshot of this current layout. And if you hear a very tiny echo, it's because I've got it playing on the other computer. Let me turn off. I'm going to mute the other audio. But yeah, okay, that is a very good thing. I'm glad that we're spending a few minutes doing this now so that we don't have to deal with it later. Control C. Where do I paste this? Paste, paste, paste. Right there. Boom. Okay, so I got a screenshot of a good layout that seems to be working. Okay, that's exciting. I mean, just think, I'm just picturing of all the trouble we were having at the end of the last season of Ask USG, where we were dropping so many frames, and we were having audio issues, and the microphone wouldn't detect. Now, I'm not saying everything's all perfect right now, but this is a pretty good start. So in this layout, when I click on camera and mic, the microphone is still in here. I want to see if the echo came back. Yes. So the microphone is there. I'm going to remove the microphone. Remove microphone from here. So now the microphone is only in through this kind of global setting here. So hopefully the echo will stop right about now. Cool. So remove from there. Remove from there. So all the microphones have been removed from all of my scene setups. Okay, yeah, the good setup. That's interesting that it's global, but now it is seemingly outputting correctly. I'm still not hearing anything, so I wonder, it would be good if I could audio preview. Okay, I guess this is the last thing, would be if I can output a audio preview, which I guess has to be a different system. So it's almost like you want your headphones or, what is this? This is set to just speakers. So if I were to set this to that, at least they're different. I'm going to hit apply and test it. And I am not hearing anything through my microphone. So my headphones. So that doesn't do any good. And then it's always funny when it tries to use the the microphone as a speaker. So I guess I'd have to have something plugged in a fundamentally different spot for it to acknowledge it. Because this is outputting system sound. That's outputting the speakers. Digital output. I'm going to try outputting the digital output here. I'm going to hit apply. So I'm going to check the audio, see if you guys can still hear everything. Hello, testing. Seems all good. I'm clicking that Vimeo link again and see if we can get some music and stuff coming through here. We'll just listen for 1 sec right now. Testing. Oh, did that not come through? Interesting. So let me change to this, and then. Okay, so that audio doesn't come through. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. While I'm saying those numbers, we should be hearing the guy talk as well. And we're not, which means that this had to be outputting the speakers. Apply. And now that those are turned on, I imagine we will hear them because we're back to what we're working. My name is Charles. Wait, did we not hear it?
And I run this supply chain lab. Here, we explore new ways to make supply chain leaders and professionals more successful through the use of AI and blockchain.
That was weird.
I can't.
Okay, that's going through. That's all fine. But why? I don't know. I just don't know a lot about this audio preview stuff. I mean, it'd be good to be able to pop my headphones on just to make sure that the audio is coming through correctly. But I just don't know how to put that out. Does anybody have any idea? Interesting. So that's speakers. I could try. I click on that, it doesn't do anything. I can click on, well, none. If I try, some people are saying that the audio and video are no longer in sync, but we have been hitting buttons on and off, so it might not be. I'm going to unplug my headphones from my speaker setup. I'm going to plug them directly into the computer. Okay, those are plugged in. The computer is acknowledging that a device was plugged into the audio jack, which is maybe something. Um, it is not giving me any extra options to preview. So it's not like a separate device. I mean, the headphone thing is not that important. I'd rather you guys are able to hear the audio properly through the system sound, because I also hear the system sound, I think. Let me see. Yeah, I do hit the hear that, right? If I hit
Can't wait to show.
yeah, that comes out of the computer. So I hear that. I just don't hear myself. So I don't hear the final audio, which I guess is somewhat important. How would I go about doing that? Like, how do you I make it so that I can listen through headphones to a different audio than the speakers are listening to? So it's just a real technical question. Something that I should probably, that it might just be something I have to go Google and look deeper into, because we just do not have the settings here to manipulate to get extra things. Like, it's just not showing anything up. So, sharing, to post to Twitter. Oh, I was wondering why stuff was getting posted automatically to Twitter. It's probably from here. I don't want it to automatically post. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out for a little extra time, helping me set up the system and make sure the basics of the audio are working at least. Seemed like everything worked well. I just have to remember to switch the screens properly. I do have a preview on my monitor here. I've also got a separate laptop sitting right over there that is also helping me see that everything seems to be working. So in a week it should be good, and hopefully a week from now we'll be able to chat with more people. We'll be getting the Slack channel all rebranded and shifted over, and then eventually it'll be on the community page on the website, which should be really cool. Start getting some more people in there. One of the big goals though is to keep everything open and friendly, and no trolls or anything like that. So we'll be keeping a big focus on that. But I think we will officially wrap this one up. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and helping out and making it here for episode 0. You were here when it all began. So keep an eye out for the Patreon upgrades, for the extra tiers getting added. And thanks again. I'll be seeing you guys on the Slack channel.